Yeah. Now I remember what I was supposed to be doing. Getting too old. Too old for this. That's not what I wanted to do. Stupid phone. Do what I tell you to do, you piece of crap. Alright, and we're going to close that. And we're going to go here. Oh, I really wish I could automate this garbage. Why can't I automate things? That's what I want to do. Okay. Hi, Chris. Hi, Alaskan dude. Mike is not muted. I just wasn't saying nothing. Ah, man. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Hang on. What are you doing? Stupid phone. Hi, Nate. Hi, Clean Frame. All right, so we got that part of it done. Now we got to go here, and then we'll be all done. Okay, let's see. AC. Okay. Now I can... Sorry, it's a pain in the butt every time. Every time I have to manually send out the social media notifications so people know that I'm streaming. Used to, this stuff could automatically send those notices out to your Facebook or your Twitter or whatever, but not anymore. Nope. YouTube killed that. Anyway, we'll be going here in about 5 minutes. So if you've got any free floating stuff you want to talk about, just send it my way. Don't let everybody chime up at once now. Remember, I'm only here for y'all's entertainment. Y'all's entertainment. New. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing? Y'all just gonna sit and stare at me now? Chris, Alaskan Dude, Blaze, Clean Frame, Nate Lewis. PlayStation canceled PC ports. Yeah, I'm aware. I am aware. Of course, you already know my stance on it. They never should have been there to begin with. I mean, we were already used to it to some extent because going all the way back to the 90s, companies like Squaresoft were porting their stuff onto PC, like Final Fantasy VII and whatnot. But still, Never should have been there to begin with. And it's never been justified by the cost. PC gamers just weren't buying them. Has technology been acting wonky for you? Not really. Not any wonkier than it usually does. Hey, Ace of Horns, how's it going, sir? Thinking of checking out For All Mankind as my new TV series. Would you recommend it? That's an Apple show, so I haven't seen it. I don't have Apple Plus. Hoping that Sony won't delist the games they already put. They're not going to do that. Can you imagine the PR nightmare? No, they won't do it. They won't do it. Kenny Omega was turned down from a role he auditioned for in the Street Fighter film, even though he's done promos for Capcom for years. Meanwhile, Cody and Reigns gets offered a part. I couldn't care less. I've never been a fan of Kenny Omega or 99% of the people that are in AEW. What are your thoughts, especially the Young Bucks? I can't stand those pricks. What are your thoughts on the first look of the God of War live action show? I don't think it was a real first look. I think it was faked. Because the last I heard, they hadn't even gone in front of cameras yet. So, I don't know if they used AI or what they used, but it didn't look real. Do you have any series recommendations? I'm relatively easy to please, you know. I liked The Expanse. I thought The Expanse was good. I like The Boys, but I don't like the spin-off show, this high school or college show or whatever it is. I like the new Fallout show. I hate Rings of Power. Couldn't stand it. Surprisingly enough, I was impressed with the new Marvel show Wonder Man. I mean, it's not a good superhero show, but just as, you know, an interesting plot with interesting characters, I really enjoyed it. 8th liked it too. And you know how picky 8th is. Marvel's Cosmic Invasion. I want to play that, but I've been waiting for a physical copy. I want to play it, and I want to play the new He-Man one that's coming out. But I haven't played Cosmic Invasion because I want a physical copy. And there hasn't been a physical copy for sale yet. I haven't bought the G.I. Joe one for the same reason. There wasn't a physical copy, so I didn't buy it. Just is what it is, y'all. But we'll be getting starting in another minute here. In another minute. And you will get the weekly update into the world of 7th. In honor of Women's History Month, can you rattle off some of your favorite female video game characters? Miss Pac-Man. Done. Oh. Feeling a little stiff this evening, lads. Don't know why. It's probably just an age thing. Do you think Crimson Desert will be good? Well, 8th wanted to risk it, so I pre-ordered it, and I guess we're going to find out. Or at least 8th will find out. 8th will find out. All right, well, it's Saturday, 6 o'clock, March 7th, 2026, and this is the 7th Cast. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. As always, I am your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th, and here comes 8th in the door. Precipitous timing, 8th. You want to come say hello to our loyal public?
Buenos dias. Dos Pecky.
Dos Pecky. I will have to explain that.
You will.
For reasons that neither of us are really sure of, a month or two ago, 8th started referring to Pepsi as Dos Pecky. My theory is that he's remembering those beer commercials, those Dos Equis commercials with the old man, I rarely commit mass genocide, but when I do, first I drink a bottle of Dos Equis. That guy. I think he's remembering that and just applying it to Pepsi. So he calls it Dos Pecky. But anyway, whenever he goes somewhere, he brings me a bottle of Dos Pecky. So, and always the zero sugar kind. So what he didn't know was that I'd already poured me a glass of zero sugar. So this is going to go into the fridge for later. Yay! Anyway, there was 8th, making his way up to 8th's lair. Let's see. What has happened in the last week? Not really, Nate. Not really. 8th looks stocky, but believe it or not, short of, a little weight in the middle, all of that is muscle. 8th is 5'6", and he can bench over 200 pounds. I think he's turning into my old man. A shorter version of my old man, but my old man. Because my dad was preternaturally strong. He could punch a pillar in the basement and shake the whole house. He was something else, and 8th is turning into that same thing. So, he works out regularly at the gym. That's just the way he's built, man. That's just the way he's built. I mean, there's just nothing blubbery on him. You can, aside from a little bit in the middle, you can bounce a nickel right off of him. He's hard as a rock. And he gets that from his grandpa. He don't get it from me. When it comes to my dad, I don't really favor him that way. I'm closer in appearance and frame to my mother's brother, my uncle, than I am my father. Thank you, Darkstar Archangel, for the prerequisite $7.77 donation. I appreciate you. Did you ever watch shows like WWE and or BattleBot? Well, I used to watch WWE. Never watched BattleBots though. Never was that big into that. Or the I wasn't into the one that Craig Charles from Red Dwarf hosted either. I've never been into the big, robot combat shows. It just never interested me. 8th is a different story. He likes that stuff because 8th is into robotics. I'm going to start calling Pepsi Dos Pequis. Yes. Yes. I think you should all start calling Pepsi Dos Pequis. And then just look at the people and watch the way they react. It's quite funny. Because I also remember those beer commercials. Yes. I said today is March 7th, not March 27th. You make 8th almost sound like a character from Bot. Well, he's not that far off. The 6th genetics, yes. Because remember what I told you, when my dad was an old man, he had a great big gut on him. So he just looked like, a gray-headed fat guy. But if he got a hold of you, he could crush your larynx with his bare hand. He could just collapse your throat with barely putting anything into it because his hands were like granite. And he maintained his upper body muscle mass right up until the day he died. He was always strong. When he was in his late 50s, he got into a car accident, totaled his truck, and we could tell from looking at his arm that it was broken. There was a ledge there. And I'm like, Dad, you need to go to the ER. You've broken your arm. And he was like, That was it. We had to drag him to the ER to get his arm fixed because he was just willing to live with it. That was my old man. I like watching those Breaking Bad animation parodies with the Baki style. I don't think I've watched any of those. Thoughts on Buff Bagwell and now Conan, the wrestlers, getting their legs amputated? Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why that's happening. Unless, something about their steroid use caused some bad circulatory problems or something. I don't know. I mean, they weren't both like type 1 diabetics, were they? Speaking of Breaking Bad, did you ever watch that show True Detective? I watched season 1. That was the only one I've watched. Before the first G4 died, they showed episodes about it. I didn't watch it. I just remember 8th being a skinny guy with long hair. 8th has been many things. He used to be very skinny when he was a little boy. He was like this big around. I was the same way. When I was really little, I was skin and bones. There was nothing on me. Then when he hit puberty, he filled out, and then he became similar to how he is now, but not quite as jacked as he is now. And he had the long hair. Well, now he's jacked out with a little bit of weight that he needs to lose around the middle, and shaves his head. So now he kind of resembles shorter me when I was 35, before I gained all this weight. But he goes to the gym regularly, so what you're seeing there, a year from now, he'll probably be 40 pounds lighter easy. It's just is what it is, man. He doesn't stay consistent, 1 year he'll be up 50 pounds. The next year he'll be down 60 pounds. It all depends on what he's doing. Good evening, Level 7. Good evening, Catholic Cowboy. High pain tolerance. My dad and I are the same. He's the only one in his side of the family. Yeah. I mean, I have some, it depends on what it is with me. Some, I can sit and take a tattoo that's a 4-hour tattoo. Doesn't bother me at all. But then there are other things that if I'm hitting the right place, it can be crippling for me. And I'm not talking about getting kicked in the nuts. I'm talking about other things. Buff Bagwell destroyed his kneecap in a car accident and they couldn't fix it. Oh, okay. I gotcha. 8th should get into professional powerlifting. I think 8th just wants to be an engineer. And he's already had a lot of doors open for him in that regard. So I would say another 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years, he'll be there. He will be there. And then I told him, I'm taking early retirement. No, I'm staying with this company until I'm forced out. What is your opinion on Nintendo suing the USA? I haven't paid attention to it. I haven't been watching the news. At least not the electronics news. So, update on my situation. Got my annual raise as I expected. It was just your bog standard 3%. Any of y'all that have worked in the IT sector long enough know that there's no such thing as getting a vastly exceeds, and there's very rarely a chance of getting an actual exceeds. Out of a 5-star scale, you almost always get a 3, which amounts to a 3% raise. So I knew that was what was coming. I've known that since 1998 when my very first help desk manager told me no one ever gets a 5, hardly anyone ever gets a 4. It's designed to be that way. They just want everyone to get a meets. So I'm used to it. I've gotten 4s a few times with this company, so it's not impossible, but sometimes it seems like it's not your individual performance, it's other things. So, I'm used to it. It just amounts to me getting a couple extra $100 a month. So, pays more bills, baby, pays more bills. And my bonus I will be getting middle of next week. So Saturday, me and 8th are going shopping. What are we shopping for? Well, I got about the same. I didn't get a bigger bonus this year. I got about the same as last year, which, considering the way the economy is, I'm not complaining at all. I was expecting to get less, but I got about the same. Well, actually, I did get a little bit less, but the thing of it is that the last several years I've owed on taxes, and so I've always had to pay some of my bonus to pay taxes that I owed. But this year I actually got a return, so I didn't have to pay taxes, so my take home from my bonus ends up being the same because I didn't have to pay taxes this year. So in reality, I got about $1,000 less than I did last year, gross. But net, it ended up being the same amount. So no jukebox this year. No jukebox. So I will still have one thing left to buy to complete this room. Which I don't even need a jukebox. I just want one because I like the way they look. But you know, the most affordable one that I've found is $800, and I've got other things I can spend that $800 on. The main thing for this trip is replacing the television, because the television is on its way out. It's 9 years old. It turns itself off randomly, so I know the power supply is going bad. It's not the cable. So, I'm going to be... we've already picked out the model I'm going to get. I'm not going to go super expensive. I don't have to have the absolute top-of-the-line image quality because I've been rocking a 9-year-old Vizio LED for years, you know. So I'm not a videophile. I don't have to have absolute pixel perfect, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also not going to be going like, $500 86-inch, Roku TV or anything like that either. I've decided on getting the LG B5, 77-inch, and that will be perfectly fine with me. 8th has last year's model, the B4, and I've sat up there and watched movies with him. The B4 looks amazing, so I'm going to be getting the new version of it, but I'll be getting the 77-inch version of it instead of the 50 like what 8th has. I'll also be replacing my sound bar because it is also 9 years old and was always meant to be a temporary audio solution. It is a $350 Sony sound bar with a subwoofer that has never really put out a tremendous amount of sound, but it got the job done. So I've decided this year I'm going to finally take care of that and get what I wanted to get years ago but didn't. And that way next year, I'll be buying my jukebox, and then the entire rest of my bonus is going to go towards paying off debt. I may actually next year just pay off 8th's car. I may do that. I haven't decided yet. I'll either pay off his car or I'll pay some of my bills off because, once I get that jukebox, we'll have everything. So what I'm going to be buying, I don't need a receiver. I've already got a Denon receiver that's a nice one. But I'm going to be buying me a couple of Polk tower speakers and Polk surround sound speakers and a Polk center channel. I already have a subwoofer, but with these tower speakers, I don't even think I'll need the subwoofer. So I'll have a new speaker system, new TV, and also, I never do the bonus thing without hooking 8th up with something that he wants. For one thing, it's something that he needs. He's past due on his eye exam, so I'm going to get him his eye exam and get his glasses replaced because he suffers from the same condition that I do. But the other thing is that he wants a Switch 2, so I'm going to get him a Switch 2. And after we buy all that, there'll still be somewhere between $1,800 and $2,500 left over. And so that is going to go into savings to cover the cost of Retropalooza in May, which by the time Retropalooza rolls around, I'll have about $1,200 in fun money to add on to that. We're not going to spend that much there, but we'll have it in case we need it. And anything that we don't spend at Retropalooza, we'll just go to pay some of the bills down. And there you go. There's my bonus for 2026. Yeah, my company is just like any other company out there. The only way you get a big raise is if you get promoted. And, I'm hitting 3 years in my current position, so it's we'll see what happens. They're signing me up for a bunch of training classes. They may be preparing me for something. They may not. Who knows? All I know is that, we got assurances that, that we would be looking into AI tools, but not AI as a replacement for any of the IT staff. So we're doing good there. So anyway, that's where we're at. Me and 8th will be going shopping a week from today. And my buddy Brian will be going with us, which is always exciting. That way it'll save, he's going to help us out by just putting whatever TV I buy in his truck and bringing it home for us. That way we don't have to pay for any kind of delivering or having to wait on a delivery. We can just walk right out of the store with it. So that's good. I'm probably going to order the speakers direct shipping. And so he don't have to be fooling with that, because I highly doubt that Best Buy or Sam's Club are going to have the speakers I'm looking at anyway. So, And then there's little other things that have to be bought with that. Need to pick up a TV stand, because the current one is mounted to the wall. But one of the things that I noticed about these new TVs is they're putting the mounting holes on the bottom of the TV now instead of in the middle like my current TV. So if I was going to mount it on the wall again like this one, I'd have to unscrew it from the wall where it is and then lower it farther down on the wall and screw it again so it would stay at the same height ratio. And I just don't want to put another set of screws into those same support struts on the house. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to buy, a stand for it that sits on top of the entertainment stand and do it that way. They make them for 77-inch TVs, so it's not that big of a deal. But other than that, we'll have to buy some speaker cable, of course. But yeah, that is the plan. That is the plan. It feels nice getting a bonus. Now, that's something, if Trump wanted to do something that would actually impress me, no tax on bonus. How about that? Because every year when I get a bonus, the government takes like $2,500 of it, or $3,000. It's a pain in the butt. Let's see here. I'm playing Octopath Traveler 0, and they re-stuffed the joint. They got Stardew Valley in my Octopath. Well, it originally was a mobile game, so that might explain it, Clean Frame. My grandpa broke his arm when he was 16 changing a transmission on the side of the road due to it falling on his arm. Still to this day, it's broken. Sup 7th, what are your thoughts on the new Castlevania game coming out this year? Me personally, I'm not a fan of the art style. I'm not really a fan of the art style either, but I mean, I like Metroidvanias. Oh, that reminds me, I have an idea for a video that I want to roll past y'all. Currently on the final boss of Lunar 1. Yeah, I need to pick that back up, Collected G. I have the remasters, I just haven't played them much. That whole crap of companies putting the funding on AI BS is what's causing a lot of the market crumbling in the entertainment media in general. Yeah. Too true. Maybe try to snag the jukebox on Black Friday. Maybe. We'll see. Depends on how money goes. Has spring sprung in your neck of the wood? Clean Frame, this is Texas. Today, it was freezing cold. Tomorrow, it'll be 90 degrees. A couple of weeks later, we might get freezing cold again. And then it'll be 106 degrees. That's just the way Texas is. It's just the way it is. Except for during the summertime, and then you don't get a cold front. You just get, cook an egg on the curb hot. This is what it is. Don't get me wrong, I love it. The only thing I don't love about Texas is the tornadoes. Can't stand tornadoes, man. But it seems like nowadays the only place that you could move where you wouldn't have a risk of a tornado would be to move out west. Because from Texas over, everybody's getting them. Although it seems like Texas is getting them less than before. And I think that's because Tornado Alley is slowly shifting to the east and becoming what they call Dixie Alley. Because now it's hitting mostly Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee. It's hitting the southeast instead of not... I mean, yeah, we had 2 of them in Oklahoma, but Texas just isn't getting them as much. That's why everyone was so shocked when one hit the town I'm living in now, because nothing ever hits this town. What was the worst game you reviewed during your Christmas marathon? That's very, very hard to say. I'd say it was probably Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That one was pretty terrible. Louisiana's weather is like that too, yeah. I thought Texas was always hot. No, we still get a winter. It's just a very mild... When I say freezing cold, I mean in the 50s. I don't mean like what y'all consider freezing cold. But, I mean, we have occasionally been snowed in. I mean, back in 2021 when the pandemic was still going on, we had that bad snowstorm where we had a few inches on the ground and power went out and some people froze to death. Yeah. Seventh, why are people upset over the new God of War game? You'd think retro gamers would love it. I don't know. I mean, I was upset with it from a perspective of it having a lot of technical problems. Now, it's been patched a few times since then, and I haven't had any of the glitches that I had when I first started playing it, but yeah. And on top of, there's some things about it that I don't like. Like, it has the leveling up system from the God of War Norse games, where you don't level yourself up individually, you level up equipment. And I don't really like that. I don't feel that it works particularly well with a Metroidvania. So I have that problem with it, but otherwise it's a pretty basic Metroidvania. But what I do think why is social media obsessed with Jim Carrey's facelift? Because they got nothing else to talk about, because they don't talk about anything relevant. They talk about stupid crap. Anyway, my idea for a video is about how I think that God of War game, even though it's definitely not a 10 out of 10, is the beginning. It could be the beginning of a new subgenre. A subgenre that I'm coining the Demake-vania. And that's where you take an established franchise that has always been, for the most part, 3D. We know God of War had a crappy 2D mobile game, but we're not counting that because it was just a regular side-scroller. You take a game that has always been 3D and you turn it into a 2D Metroidvania. Right? It's something that can be done cheap. It's something that could be done to revitalize a dormant franchise. So if Sony was smart, they would learn from this game, and then we'd get a Sly Cooper Metroidvania, a Jak and Daxter Metroidvania, an Infamous Metroidvania. We could even get a Resistance Metroidvania. The possibilities are limitless. It could create an entire new subgenre of the Metroidvania genre, which would be the Demakevania. And it could go over very well because Metroidvanias are a very popular genre. And people have been clamoring to be bringing back all these old dormant Sony franchises, right? Well, they've just learned that you can make one of these on the relative cheap and that people will buy it. And boom. Here's a cheap way to give people what they're asking for in a way and gauge what real interest is in those dormant franchises. So people are always saying, give us a new Infamous, give us a new Infamous. Okay, create a Infamous Demakevania, see how many people actually buy it. If it sells well, then you know, hey, let's put what's that? Whichever Sony Ben. Let's put Sony Ben on Infamous 4 because the Demakevania sold. It's a win-win. It's a plan with no drawbacks. And then maybe other studios will follow in their suit. And other franchises that have been 3D and gone, bring them back as Demakevanias. That's just an idea that 7th here is throwing out into the ether. Sony, feel free to not pay me any royalties for the idea that I just passed along to you. Spread that around, everyone. Demakevanias for everybody. You get a Demakevania, and you get a Demakevania because 7th said so. That wasn't a Demakevania, though, Ace of Horns. That was just a straightforward action thingy. Have you ever played that Shinobi Art of Vengeance game? I beat it last year, and it was incredible. Are you talking about the newest Shinobi? The one that just came out a few months ago? Yeah, I have it. It's awesome. Make a YouTube video of your shopping spree. I want to see you bungee cord the 77-inch TV to the top of that. I don't have a charger. I have a Challenger. Secondly, we won't be taking it in my car. Like I said, my buddy Brian will be driving it in his truck, which he has multiple trucks, so I don't know which truck he'll be using. Perhaps he'll be using the Hummer. I'm not sure. You just reminded me of when you were talking about 8's build. It just popped in my head. Wouldn't you say 8th has a similar build to Salvador from Borderlands 2? I don't know, maybe. We already have Souls-like Metroidvania, hence Bloodborne. I'm not talking about Souls-like. I said a Demakevania. Taking a 3D-only franchise, making it 2D. Soulsvania is a totally different thing. Soulsvania is a totally different thing. People will expect a Metroidvania with remasters, re-release is a better way, in my opinion. Well, I'm not saying that you can't have remasters, too. Hi, 7th. Herbert here from overseas. Hi, Herbert. From Brazil. Good to see you. Good to see you, too. Well, relatively speaking, you know. Do you think, meaning that I can't see you, but you can see... Hold on a minute. Yes, I was just wondering if you currently have a company that handles your pest control. Yes, I already have a company that handles my pest control. Go away. At 6:30 at night on a Saturday. Kiss my ass. And that kind of thing didn't happen in the old neighborhood that I used to live in. But in this neighborhood, we get solicitors all the damn time. And I'm getting really tired of it. We get solicitors for everything here. And it sucks. It sucks. Every time I turn around, some asshole is at the door. I'm going to start answering the door with my 9mm, and then maybe, word will spread around. Irritates me. Do you think it's pathetic for Sony to shut down Bluepoint to compromise for their failure with... Yeah, I know. I'm not happy about it at all. Bark, bark, bark. Only reason why I love small dog. Yeah, they're a great little security system. Little dog's got a yip. Cheap security alarms. Best alarm ever made, Tiny Doll. Absolutely. No, Collected G, that's not what that was. We already had a Metroidvania God of War, and it didn't work out so well. The only 2D God of War that I know anything about was the one on phones, and it wasn't a Metroidvania. It was just a regular platformer. It was some guy wanting to know if we already had a company that handled our pest control services. Just answer your door through an audible CCTV from now on. Well, I've got one of those smart doorbells with the camera on it, but the people that sold this house to me didn't provide any documentation on how to get into it, what the IP address is, what the security was for it. They left nothing. So that doorbell is basically useless. I have no way of accessing its camera. But I know those also have like a little microphone on it. So if I did have that and I had an app for it, I just could have gone on my phone, seen them, and been like, get the F off my porch. Because I have no patience for solicitors, man. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's roofers. I don't care if it's people wanting to give me a better internet rate. I don't care if it's some little girl selling Girl Scout cookies. They all piss me off. Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell a little girl, get the F off my porch. But you know what I'm saying. If I have something I need, I will come to you. Do not come to me, because that's instant non-sale. You will not get anything out of me that way. It bugs the crap out of me. Just puts me in a bad mood, I tells you. Oh, I forgot to give Darkstar Archangel his dollar bill. There you go, Darkstar. There you go. So anyway, what I'm going to be spending my bonus on is the only set topic that I had to talk about today. So anything that y'all want to bring up that I can, give you my 2 cents on. Yeah, he said that it wasn't curable, but it was treatable. Whatever that means. So, either way, it's not a good thing, but... Maybe it's like mesothelioma, that blood cancer that you can live 20 years with. Maybe it's that. Who knows? I don't know. Is Wolverine the only game you're anticipating this year? Pretty much. Pretty much. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that's been announced that I was like, oh. Oh, my, oh, my, oh. My, oh, my, oh, my, oh. Oh, poke me in my eye. I tell you what, lads. Would you play an Arkham-style Dare? Well, of course I would. Of course I would. Of course. Ever play Romeo is a Dead Man, the latest Suda 51 game? No, I have not played it. I have not played it. I haven't even spoken to anyone who has. To where I could say, hey, is that game any good? By the way, your cap is the bomb. Oh, my Captain Caveman ball cap? Actually, I don't think that's Captain Caveman because Captain Caveman has eyes. I think that's one of the cavemen from Wacky Races. But, I mean, it's close enough to Captain Caveman that who cares? But this is from a company called Overlord. And this was a gift from Stranded J, who you see in the chat every so often. He's a soulless ginger, but he does send me awesome gifts. What setting for an Assassin's Creed would most interest you? For me, it would be the Civil War. Well, I am not as big on recent history like the Civil War as I am ancient history. So, you know, I know they're not going to do it, but I would be interested in playing one that takes place during either the Old or the New Testament. But they're not going to do either one of those because then what they're going to end up doing would be trying to imply that, you know, Christ was one of the Templars or Christ was an alien or whatever. But, you know, they've already gone back way farther than when the assassins existed, so why not go even farther than that? Why not go back to antediluvian times and have them interacting with, you know, the Nephilim and stuff like that? You know, so be walking around in ancient Babylon and ancient Ur and stuff like that. That would be what I'd want to do. Hello, Black Cadillac. How's it going, kind sir? Did you catch the Captain Caveman cameo in the Scooby movie? Yeah, and I actually have the action figure for that. It's one of only 2 Captain Caveman action figures that I'm aware of that's ever been created, and I have both. But I didn't like him because, you know, it wasn't Captain Caveman. It has his body shape, but didn't sound like him, act like him, nothing. He was like a gangster rapper. Or, you know, like a Rastafarian rapper. You know, he wasn't Captain Caveman anymore. So, you know, while it was cool to see him in there, it also was kind of lame. But I bought the action figure anyway. Just cause. You know, I've been looking into that AI music studio thing, that Suno or whatever it's called. And I've been thinking about getting it so I could take my really old demos from my band and sticking them in there and seeing if it could take those crappy demos and make them sound studio quality. I've been thinking about doing that. Because if it can do that, then that means I could do rough cuts of the songs that I want to do and feed them in there, and it send me out a studio quality version of that song. So that I could finally, you know, get all the songs that I've written but never recorded into an album before I die. Not to sell it, but just to have it out there. I'm thinking about it. The other thing that I'm working on is I've decided, screw it. Stranger Things can kiss my ass. I thought of it first, and I'm going to go ahead and write my book. I'm currently outlining it and making some decisions on the kind of structure I want. I've talked very briefly. He hasn't given advice or anything, because he doesn't have to. But I've kind of thrown ideas at Rob, Order 42, because he and I discuss two things. We discuss movies and we discuss writing. And I threw some ideas his way to see what he thought. I already have an idea for the title of the book. My initial idea when I first conceived of this book 20 years ago was I was going to name it after the street I grew up on. But because the plot of the book involves an actual secret society that exists there, if I named the book after the real street I grew up on, then people would be able to find that actual secret society and harass the crap out of them, and then they'd come and sue me. So I'm not going to do that. I'm still going to name the book after the road, but I'm going to change the name of the road so that people won't be able to do that. So, no matter what I do, anyone that reviewed it is going to accuse me of trying to be an also-ran to Stranger Things, even though I conceived of this 20 plus years ago. In fact, I can tell you exactly when I thought of it. It was in 2004. Because I was still working on the other book that I already wrote and published years ago. And so this idea was already brewing in my head, and me and Eighth and my then wife made a trip back to my hometown from Florida. We stopped by there to visit relatives on our way to a vacation in Gatlinburg. And while I was there, we went and visited the mother of one of my childhood best friends. So we were in my original neighborhood, just, a couple of houses up from the house I grew up in. And on our way out of the neighborhood, I pulled over and got out and took a picture of the street sign with the intention of that's going to be the cover of this next book I write. And then I never wrote it. And so then, I spent all this time like writing outlines, and I even wrote like a prologue to it and whatnot. And I got as far as finishing the prologue, and then I sat down and watched the first season of Stranger Things. And I was like, F it! And I tore it all up. So I will be starting over. Now, Stranger Things is about wayward technology that causes a breach with Lovecraftian things. Mine is more about eldritch magic and things of the occult and whatnot, leading to Lovecraftian things. They both take place, Stranger Things takes place like in like the mid-'80s. My book will take place the summer of 1990, which would have been the summer before my sophomore year. So you're talking, me and my friends are like 15, something like, not old enough to get our driver's licenses yet. 1 year away. But it's going to be written in a first-person style, almost similar to a journal, and it's going to have appendices. So, I will somebody will make a reference to, say, for example, to Harrison Bay. Someone will make a reference to Harrison Bay. And so then there will be a little star, and down at the bottom it'll say, reference appendices 2B. And so you flip back to the appendices and you pull up 2B, and it's where my character wrote an essay on the history of Harrison Bay for history class or something. And it gives you a history of, Harrison Bay and the New Deal and FDR and the Tennessee Valley Authority and how that led to the flooding of an entire town. And, they gave them a couple of $100 for the inconvenience and moved them up to the ridge, which became, the banks of the new bay. So yeah, it's going to have that kind of structure where it'll reference things that you have to flip back to and read them, and sometimes it's just going to be my first person. It's going to be interspersed, so you'll have some sections of it that's actually moving the plot forward, and then you'll have an entry where it's like just me and Dad going fishing, and then there will be there'll be like just some shenanigans of here's a weird conversation that me and three of the guys had, and then there'll be a section that moves the plot forward again, and then there'll be a section about how we set that guy's car on fire with fireworks, and then it'll move the section forward again, and then here's a section of something wacky that happened when my dad took me on a ride along, and so it has all these different things interspersed with it while still moving the core plot along. So it's going to be a very complicated book to write. But I think being able to swap back and forth through all of those things will keep me from getting bored with it. Because I don't want it to be some super thick, 600-page Stephen King thing. I want to keep it for 400 pages or less, preferably less. But we will see. We will see. It's going to take me a long time to write it, so who knows. Favorite Kung Fu movie, Enter the Dragon. Followed closely by Little Mad Guy. They will never do it for obvious reasons, but would you ever play a God of War based on Christian Catholic gods? No, I don't think so. No. This one YouTuber made an AI reggae CD about another YouTuber. He made his own lyrics. It's called the Jacob Lightspeed CD. It makes fun of this YouTuber who buys fake subs and has other hilarious controversies. Interesting. Some book reviewers will falsely accuse your book. Yeah. Stranger Things is just an homage to 80s childhood classics such as Goonies, Explorers. What kind of book publishing deal are you looking for? Oh, I won't look for a book publishing deal. I'll do like I did with my previous book and just go through a self-publishing press. It's nearly impossible to get a book deal these days. Nearly impossible. I may just go straight through Amazon's publishing process and do it that way. Because, I'm not doing it to make $1 million. I'm just doing it because I like writing and I think it would be a fun idea. So, all the characters in the book, and all of them, are going to be based on people I grew up with. I'm just changing the names around. So instead of a kid named Chaz, there's going to be a kid named Chad. Instead of Chad, there's going to be a kid named Chaz. That kind of thing. And so every character that you see in there is going to be based on, friends of mine. Instead of Brandon, there's going to be a kid named Braden. Instead of Tom, there's going to be a Todd. Is what it is. Meanwhile, we live about an hour away. Well, maybe not even that far, but we live a ways away from Fort Hood here in Texas. And so they let us know today that from Monday through Wednesday, they're going to have B-52 bomber training. So we're going to get to listen and feel all these bombs going off and shaking the whole house for 3 straight days. It's the downside to living where I live. And is why the house has actually dropped in value since I purchased it. Because you have, to the south of us, a rock quarry where they set off munitions. To our west, you have Fort Hood where they set off munitions. And to the north, you have Elon Musk's rocket factory where they set off all sorts of stuff. So there's like things that shake the house all around us. So, yeah. That's why the house has lost $5,000 in value since I bought it 2 years ago. Well, almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago next month. Thoughts on Valve steam machines? I don't really have a personal need for one. Hood, the real name. True story, I have a cousin named Hood. That's his first name, Hood. He's like in his 60s now. His brother's named Sonny, and he's named Hood, Hood. It's not a nickname. That's on his birth certificate. Now, how you end up with that as your first name, I will never know. I will never know. B-52 Bomber. That Intellivision voice box. I still have it sitting back there on the shelf. Happy Spring 7th. Do you have any king cobras crawling through your vents? That doesn't happen here. That doesn't happen here, sir. No king cobras crawling through the vents in Texas. At least not this part of Texas. Maybe closer to the border. Hi, AKL Max. Saw you in the chat for Black Bond's live stream last night. Hoodie would be the nickname, right? No, everyone just called him Hood. AKL Max. You know, there was a time where if they were going to have that kind of a crap talking session like they did, Black Bond wouldn't throw one of those on without looking for me. But he didn't look for me this time. I mean, you know, Hard 8 was going to be there, but he and I squashed our beef a long time ago. He and I get along now. We don't talk that much, but we get along. Me and the Great Exposer is probably a little bit of a different story. I don't have anything against Great Exposer. It's he just kind of, I don't know, he just kind of annoys me. It's like, you know, you get around tism of that level and you expose yourself to it for too long, you can't help but, you know, get a little bit of it on you. Now, I will say that listening to him last night, he seems to have mellowed out quite a bit compared to how he was when I knew him. Again, I ain't got nothing against the guy. He just Great Exposer was a guy that you ever had that friend that wasn't your best friend, but he was a friend? But, you know, he wasn't the one that you ever invited to parties or invited to go on vacation trips or any of that kind of thing with, because you couldn't stand to be in the same room with him for that amount of time. He was fun in certain situations, but there was other things that you would never dream of taking him on because you know it would just irritate the crap out of you. To me, that's the Great Exposer. There's some things about him that I'm cool with, but there's some things about him that's just nails down the chalkboard of my brain. So, you know, I can take him in certain doses, but extending that out longer, he's a guy that has so convinced himself that he's the greatest at owning people that he even tries to own his own friends. Or at least that's the way he used to be. Because his autism had convinced him that, he had to be cranked up to 11 in every single conversation. In other words, he didn't know how to turn it off, is what I'm saying. I could turn it off. I could completely destroy MLD and then have a private conversation with him behind the scenes like nothing was going on. Exposure can't do that. He's got 2 settings, on and asleep, and that's it. Or at least that's the way he used to be. He sounds more mellow now, but, maybe he had a few in him by the time, the end. I don't know, because I only showed up on the last 15 minutes of it. But maybe that's why Bond didn't think to put me in there, because he knows that's how I feel about Exposure. Maybe. I don't know. Any updates from Solid Rev? I haven't heard. Well, he blocked me a couple, over a year ago now. He was going through a lot of stuff at the time, so maybe he's just decided once again that it's better for him to just not be on YouTube. I don't know. At least the Ouya didn't become a paperweight. Well, I mean, it's a halfway decent little emulation box. If you want to play ROMs, that's about it. Did you know who that European guy was? No idea who that was. Bond probably chose Jack because he's available 24. Bond and Jack have always kind of gotten along. I wouldn't call Jack a friend, but I get along with him anyway. We follow each other, or at least we used to. I don't know if we still do. Do you still watch AVGN? I watch some stuff AVGN does. I don't watch all of it. And nowadays, I can usually watch the first 30 to 45 seconds of a new AVGN episode and know whether or not I'm going to like it. Some of the ones that he's most proud of, I can't stand. Like when he did his version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I hate that episode. I really do. I can't stand it. Sounds like we need a 10-season reality show where the great exposer lives with 7th, and then we get to the point where 7th has gone nuts, and we end the show with a steel... No. Exposer didn't go after Jack being a jobless bum. Well, maybe he has changed then, because the exposer I knew would have been constantly on Jack's ass that entire show. So, maybe he's mellowed out. I'm willing to give that the benefit of the doubt. My opinions on people can change. I mean, after all, look at Tokes, which I haven't heard from Tokes in a while either. I mean, the last time I heard from him, he was doing good. He had a place to live. He had a job. He was doing all right. But I haven't heard from him in a while. I'll have to message him on PSN and see if he answers. Would you do a podcast with Bond? If Bond asked me to be on a podcast with him, yes, I would. That being said, I don't think he'll ask me for that. But I would if he asked me. I wouldn't replace the 7th cast with it. I would continue to do the 7th cast because I just would. But yeah, I mean, it's not like he hasn't asked me to be on live streams of his before. I've been on several. It's just people don't remember them because they were years ago. Tokes, the last time I saw, he had bought a pit bull puppy. Yeah, that he did mention that. I just don't remember how long ago that was. It was a couple of months, I think. A couple of months at least. Anyway. Two hours. 2 hours remaining, folks. Fun. Oh, have I picked up any Blu-rays lately? No. Again, you guys, until my health improves, I'm not doing the whole donations extend the show thing anymore, because right now, after 3 hours, I start to really hurt, and mainly across here and in my lower back. And so then I basically, when the show is over, I have to go sit in my recliner over there and drop some ibuprofen and wait for the pain to go away. So I'm not doing the whole extending the show thing. That being said, a reminder, for right now, all of the donations that I get are going to be going to replacing this damn camera, because I'm so tired of this camera. It has never functioned at the level that I've wanted it to function. And in case what, the model that I have is the Logitech Brio 4K. And I mean, do I look 4K to you? I know YouTube is telling you that I'm in 4K, but look at it. I mean, look at the ghosting. Look at the ghosting that's going on. You know, and I'm running at 60 hertz. Look at this. This looks like 30 frames per second at best. Look how grainy it is. You know, this doesn't look near as sharp as some of the other people that live stream. I look like I'm using 5-year-old tech. And this camera is only like, I don't know, 2 years old. I need to replace it. I just don't know what to replace it with. And so for right now, and I'm not asking y'all to donate, but any donations I do get are going to go towards replacing that camera. I want a podcast with the OG5, Bond, Hard 8, Solid Rev, 7th, Review Tech USA, and Humpmaster Flex. Good God, you're a glutton for punishment, are you? For one thing, I don't think Solid Rev would do a podcast with me because he's still mad at me. Bond, sure. Hard 8, sure. Solid Rev, probably not. Humpmaster Flex doesn't really do anything online anymore. Review Tech USA, he's gone, you know, he and I get along. I don't have anything against him, but he's just getting closer and closer to that far left cliff every day. I'm kind of worried about him. He's starting to get a little bit, like too close to the edge. And I'm starting to get worried about him from a mental standpoint. But, yeah, I don't think that would happen, QB. We also need a reality TV show where El Presidor and his 37 cats come to live with 7th. Oh, God. Oh, God. No. Pits are overrated. My cousin had a sweet one. Even when she had a kid, the dog is still sweet. Overhated. Oh, okay. Well, my next door neighbor had a pit bull, and he was sweet as can be. I mean, he did hurt my rat terrier one day, but he didn't mean to be. He was just trying to play with him and didn't know his own strength. My rat terrier went charging at him out the back door, and my neighbor's pit bull just kind of picked him up and slung him across the yard. Didn't break any bones or anything, but you know, he was hurting for a few days. YouTube can tell me what it wants. You're not in 4K. Yeah, and this is a 4K camera. I'm transmitting in 4K. YouTube is showing it's receiving me in 4K. But look how grainy this is. Look how grainy it is. And you think, well, just turn up the sharpness. No. You turn the sharpness up on this, I look like a granulated mess compared to this. Hey, 7th, how do you feel about the new Xbox CEO, Asha Sharma? Can she save Xbox? She's not there to save Xbox. She's talking out both sides of her mouth. That podcast is a nightmare blunt rotation. I think DSP would make a good podcast member, not going to lie. Darkside Phil would not be a podcast member with us. He doesn't even know any of us. He might know Review Tech USA. Rich needs to sign off and just find a real job at doing well. What are your thoughts on Marathon? Haven't played it and have no interest. I don't care for politics. I just watch Rich for the immature high school humor. Yeah. I've started playing God of War Ragnarok. I'm loving it. Just got up to the bit where you switch to Atreus. How did you find playing as Atreus? I have not played Ragnarok yet. It is one of many in my massive backlog. I mean, you see back there, that entire top shelf is PS5. And that's not all of our PS5 games. That's just the ones down here. There's a whole other shelf of them upstairs. We have over 200 PS5 games. And that's just the physical ones. My great-grandmother had a rat terrier, sweet around me and my cousins because we were kids, but was snippy around adults. Depends on how you raise him. His name was Obby. If you go back far enough in my videos, you'll see Obby every now and again roaming around. He was a little, what they called a tux terrier. He had black coat with patches of brown and white, so it looked like he was wearing a little tuxedo. That was him. He died 7 years ago, I guess now. 6-7 years ago. The lighting also makes a difference in video quality. Yeah, well, I mean, if I added more lighting, I still don't look sharp. I could put a light right here, a spotlight. I still wouldn't look sharp because of the way this camera is. This camera, I mean, I can see the pixels moving around. And even though I've got bright light on my face, I can see pixels moving around on my face. It's not that great of camera. Even if I try to use it just to record footage, not even being online, it looks like this. I need a better camera that I can both stream with and record good footage with. That's what I need. And I don't know what camera to buy, and I don't know how much it's going to cost. Did you play Okami? If so, how did you find it? I played Okami years ago on the PS2. It was okay. I wasn't like a tremendous fan of it. What do you think of the new Xbox being $1,500? Well, it's not a console. It's a mid-level PC. That's all it is. It's a PC with the Xbox logo, ejaculated all over it. That's all it is. Just like the Xbox handheld that's a rogue ally. Bit my uncle and a priest to comfort when my great-grandfather was dying. I think in the end he didn't like me bringing my Dachshund over and becoming the center of attention. How's Alex? Haven't seen her on your most recent videos. Because she's she can be a bit of a pain when I'm trying to stream. Turn off autofocus. That's not even an option in my video settings. I can go to my webcam and go to settings here in OBS, configure video, right? Now what? See how grainy I just turned out? That's what I look like with the sharpness turned on. Isn't that crazy? I have to turn the sharpness off to get rid of that. I have to completely turn sharpness off. If I turn sharpness on, I look like this. Now, how does that make sense? Yeah, but there's not a this is as good as it gets. I can play around with stuff, but there's not that much I can do. I've already got low light compensation turned on. If I turn that off, it gets a little bit darker. Okay, now that was thunder. That wasn't a bomb. That was thunder. Now I can turn... That's supposed to be sharper focus, believe it or not. This whole thing is whacked out. Look at that. That's focus at 0. That's focus at 12. But it adds a delay, an additional delay to what I'm seeing. So, yeah. 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 Anyway. Pair your USB cable with the right port. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Man, that's some big thunder out there. What are some of your favorite boss fights? Can't think of any. Can't think of any. My first Datsun made it to 17 before we had to put him down. Had him for 15 years. Grandma got it for me. Datsuns are good dogs. They have a lot of back problems. Did you ever get any games? Dang, that was some loud thunder. Did you ever get any games for Google Stadia? No, never did Google Stadia. Thoughts on the Gabe Cube? Don't care about it. It doesn't look bad right now. Is my voice still in sync with what you're seeing? Because now that I made those changes that I made, watching myself on screen, there's maybe like a half a second of delay between what I'm doing and what it shows up on camera. So if you guys are seeing a delay in my audio, let me know. That was anything but sharper for. I know. Might have to buy a DSLR and use it as a webcam. Today is the first day for wearing shorts this year. It's a little out of sync. Great. Now I got to try to figure out how I did that. That's what I get for playing with it while I'm live. That's what I get for playing with it while I'm live. Brother. Pan, tilt. I don't know. Whatever, you guys. Looks like Kung Pao the movie. Did you ever play any of the Resident Evil remakes? If so, what was your favorite? Again, I have to tell you guys this every week. I'm not a fan of survival horror games. You're in sync now. Well, that's weird because I didn't change any settings. All I did was open up the settings menu and then turn it back off again. Sonic didn't translate well into 3D, to be honest. Yeah, well, you're not wrong. That thunderstorm has magic powers. It has something. Let me pull up weather.com real quick and see what we got going on out there. Weather.com. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. I may just crap my pants. Let's see here. My neck of the woods, Texas. What we got going? I can hear the rain hitting the house. So it gonna rain. But let me see. That's 48 hours. I wasn't expecting any more rain tonight. We were supposed to be done with rain by about 4 p.m. That's what they told us anyway. But maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I got more coming towards me. Either way, we ain't getting. I don't think we have to worry about any kind of like twisters or anything like that. It's not wanting to pull up the 48-hour results. Where's the radar? Let's see if we can get the. Come on. It's not wanting to load up the better radar screen. I mean, according to this, this ought to be passing off of us within another hour, I guess. I ain't gonna worry about it. Thoughts on Sony going back to true I talked about that earlier. I never thought it was a good idea for them to port their games to PC anyway. You think Toriyama's passing affects the progress of Dragon Quest XII? I don't know. Maybe. Did you like Chris Farley? I didn't dislike him. I liked one of his movies, which was Tommy Boy. I didn't like Black Sheep. I certainly didn't like Beverly Hills Ninja. That was the dumbest crap I ever sat through. But I liked Tommy Boy. And I liked him on Saturday Night Live. You know, I liked Matt Foley and all those other stupid characters he did. Was 8th ever into Pokemon? No. He was never into Digimon collecting, but he likes the Digimon RPGs. Have you seen Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair? No. Was SNL ever good? Yes. My favorite era of SNL was when Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were on there, and Phil Hartman. The early to mid 90s. That's the era that I remember. They had skits they did back then that if you go back and watch episodes of Saturday Night Live on Peacock or whatever, you don't get the whole episode. It tells you, this is the episode that aired blah, 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 1989. You don't get the whole episode. You don't get all the skits. They cut stuff out. So if you go back and watch all of the episodes of Saturday Night Live from when I was in high school, there's definitely one skit that you will not see, and it was a skit that had Phil Hartman and a few others in it, and it was called Night of the Masturbating Zombies. And it was made to be like an old 50s sci-fi horror film, but it's zombies that are going around jerking off. So you had these two people, a teenage football player guy with the cheerleader, and they're making out in the convertible out on Lover's Lane, and then you see some guy in the woods, and they're like, look, the woman's like, look, it's a zombie, and their boyfriend's like, and he's masturbating. You won't see that episode or that skit. I don't know why. I mean, if they were able to get it past the censors in the 90s, I have no idea why it wouldn't air now, but it is not there. There was an edginess to it in the late 80s, early 90s that I just don't feel is on there anymore. I just don't find Saturday Night Live funny at all anymore, which, back when I was watching it in high school, when it had, Night of the Masturbating Zombies and Wayne's World and all that other stuff, I thought it was hilarious. Not so much now. I know there was a skit on Saturday Night Live where they were just finding out that Prince Charles had been cheating on Princess Di with the Carmilla woman that he's married to now. And they found some of his journal letters that he had written to her or something. And in one of those letters, Prince Charles had said something to the effect of, he wished he could be a tampon so he could be inside her all the time. This is one of the worst possible pickup lines ever, right? Especially for Carmilla, whatever Bowles, because she is a hideously ugly woman, and was when she was young. It's not like she aged into this. She's always been fugly. But anyway, that was something he said, and so they did a skit. This one, I think, is in the archives, where Dana Carvey is playing Prince Charles, and British scientists have come up with a device that's similar to the pods in The Fly, where they can turn him into a tampon so that he can be inserted into Carmilla. And so you had Dana Carvey playing Prince Charles, and he gets into these booths, and on this side it's him, and on this side here's this tiny little tampon sitting there. And so they go through with it, and so then you see, this tampon with Dana Carvey's head on it, and it's like, look, darling, the experiment was a success. Finally, our dreams can come true. And she's looking at this thing, and she's kind of like, well, maybe your dreams, But that's the kind of stuff they used to do on Saturday Night Live, and they don't do stupid stuff like that anymore. There's not as much edge to it. Yes, I've seen There Will Be Blood. Thoughts on This Is Spinal Tap? Loved the original, haven't seen the sequel. Would you agree that Tarantino is an overrated filmmaker? Yes, because all he does is regurgitate the stuff that he used to watch when he was, manning a video store. His movies are all like, the greatest hits of the 70s and 80s. Another reason why Physical is better. Phil Hartman, you might remember him by Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure. Yes. Thoughts on Parodius? Nonsense fantasy. You talking about the side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that has like the mostly naked gay dudes in it and stuff? I've played it once. Thoughts on Chrono Trigger? One of the best RPGs ever made. Japanese RPGs, anyway. The going rumor is that Square Enix is looking to reboot that franchise. Thoughts on the Resident Evil movies? They're all crap. All of them have been crap. Even the Welcome to Raccoon City or whatever that they put out a couple of years ago. I mean, it's not awful, but there's not anything that makes it great either. I just kind of sat through it kind of bored, really. Tasty. Yeah, that's another thing is, Saturday Night Live has always been political, but it feels like nowadays it's too political. To me, for the last at least 10 years, Saturday Night Live has been what the most recent 2 seasons of South Park have been. It's all about how crappy Trump is. And I'm not saying that Trump isn't crappy. I'm just saying that an entire season of that same joke, you start to get tired of it. And especially when the jokes they're using are just a regurgitation of the stuff they did during Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. They just took the stuff that they were doing with Saddam Hussein and stuck Donald Trump's head on it. To me, that was really lazy. And so I got 2 episodes into the most recent stuff from South Park, and I'm like, nope. Seen all this before. And that's what the last 10 years of Saturday Night Live have been, with a few exceptions. Like, I liked those skits where they had the 3 people that had been abducted by aliens, and most of them are, it was a wonderful light and peace and love. And then you have whatever her name is, and she was like, well, they were trying to shove stuff up my poot chute, and my pooter and my scooter, and all those cracked me up. Those are funny. I love those. But other than that, I can't really think of a whole lot that Saturday Night Live has done in the last 10 years where I was, it had me giggling. Can't really think of anything. Tarantino is one of those Polanski defenders, so I don't care what he says. I always wondered who Alice was since she's not in the games. Yeah. Thoughts on Jurassic Park 2? You mean The Lost World? I hated it. Didn't like it. I didn't like the book either. Would you say you're a heavyweight when it comes to drink? No. I don't drink at all. I don't drink alcohol. I used to have one malt beverage a week during the 7th cast, and I even cut that out. The South Park Stick of Truth game is amazing. Yeah, the game's good. In fact, the games are probably the last good thing they were involved in, if you ask me. Yeah. Would you agree that HAL 9000 is the most terrifying movie villain of all time? I don't think so. I don't think so. The fun part is if you watch the sequel, 2010, they run into Hal, and he's not like that at all. He's completely normal. It's kind of weird. But, you know, he didn't scare me or anything when I watched that movie. Will you be playing Crimson Desert? No, 8th will, though. But I won't. Is the Fractured But Whole better? I played Stick of Truth all the way through the end. I beat Stick of Truth. I've only played maybe an hour of Fractured But Whole. Not because it was bad, per se, but I don't know. I just wasn't getting into it the way I got into the first one. I don't know. I'm going to have to lean back for a minute, gentlemen. Now, I haven't... I know last week I went over recent 4K purchases. I haven't had any major ones this week. I did buy a Blu-ray. But now I'm, like, failing to remember the name of it. Hold on just a second. Yes. It's a 1985 animated movie. It's called Star Chaser: The Legend of Orin. I bought it on Blu-ray. It was cheap. I like that movie. It wasn't one that I grew up with. I actually didn't see it in the 80s when it came out. It came out in 1985. I didn't see it until many, many years after that. It's about on par with like Fire and Ice, you know, other 80s movies, but this one is more sci-fi than fantasy. It's pretty fun. There's a character in it that's heavily inspired by Han Solo. I like it. But I picked that one up. And my one little non-essential purchase that I'm making with my bonus money when it comes through is I'm going to finish out my my Evil Dead 4K collection because I needed to pick up a couple of more to have all the Evil Dead movies. So I'm going to do that. Favorite Simpsons character? Homer. Fractured But Whole was just more of the same, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt it was kind of played out by the end of the first game, I guess. Are you looking forward to Spaceballs 2? Not especially. Thoughts on Starship Troopers? Why did some people like it? Because of the humor. I think more people liked it from the humor than from the actual plot. I think they liked the satire. That's not in the book, by the way. The book is nothing like the movie at all. So this new Starship Troopers they're talking about making, they intend for it to be closer to the book. So I think people that were fans of the original are going to be very disappointed. Because if they're making it like the book, it won't be anything like the movie. At all. It's kind of the same thing with The Running Man. You know, I loved the new Running Man movie. I thought it was great. That being said, it is next to nothing like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. Because it's closer to the book. So people that never read the book and are only fans of the Schwarzenegger movie, of course they hated it. Now, the same is not true for the remake of Total Recall. That one also tried to stay closer to the book, but it was just really boring and didn't have the humor at all of the first one. You know, this new Running Man, even though it's closer to the book and not like the Schwarzenegger movie, still has a lot of humor in it. You know, I laughed out loud several times watching it. And that's one that I definitely want on 4K, but I'm waiting for it to not be $30. I want it to get down in that $19.95 range, and then I'll pick it up. Same thing with Predator Badlands. I really liked Predator Badlands, even though I think it would have been better as an R-rated film than a PG-13 film. But I really, really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think they've made the Predator race a little bit too close to the Klingon race, but I can live with it. I had a lot of fun with that one, and same thing. I'm waiting for it to get down to that $19.95 range, and then I'll pick it up. Spaceballs 2. Mel Brooks is almost 100 years old. I have concerns. All of the actors are way older. John Candy is dead. I just don't know, man. I want it to be great, but I just don't know. Thoughts on Raw Deal. Probably one of my least favorite Schwarzenegger movies, right up there with Hercules in New York. There's just, I don't know. That to me, Raw Deal was just kind of a very bland, boring mob movie, and I just didn't like it. I just never got over the fact that there is a guy dressed up as a lit-up Christmas tree in the original Running Man film. Oh, you're talking about Electro, the opera singer, the guy that looked kind of like Dusty Rhodes had tripped over a Christmas tree. Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. Have you seen Mercy? No. Have not seen Mercy. Doesn't interest me. I just don't have any interest in the plot. I can already tell that on top of being sick of zombie movies, I'm going to be adding sick of evil AI movies right on top of it very, very soon. If I'm not sick of it already. I mean, there was an evil AI movie way back. What was that thing called? It's something like Demon Seed or some name that you wouldn't expect to be about an evil AI, but that's what it was about. This house with this AI-driven security system goes amok, blah, blah, blah. It was called Demon Seed or something like that. I think it was based on a Dean Koontz book. And then, of course, the infamous AI movie, Wes Craven's Deadly Friend, where Kirsty Swanson of Buffy the Vampire theatrical fame gets critically injured, and her nerd friend who had a crush on her, who had built his own robot, takes the AI CPU of that robot and sticks it in the brain of the corpse of Kirsty Swanson, and then she becomes this evil killing machine. It's the dumbest plot for a movie that you've ever seen, but it does have a famous scene where Kirsty Swanson takes a basketball and slings it so fast at Mama Fratelli's head that her head explodes. Very famous scene. But yeah, it's that movie's dumber than dirt. I don't own it. I wish I did. You can get it on Blu-ray pretty cheap. I just haven't bought it yet. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, magic powers. Thoughts on Fast Times at Ridgemont High? That was not really one of my favorites back then. And I'll tell you why. It's because it didn't reflect my high school experience. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a very California-centric film. That's what the high school experience was in Southern California around 1985, 1986. That's not what high school from 1985 or 1989 to 1993 was for me outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I couldn't really, reflect on it. Breakfast Club I could associate with, even though it's not in the South, because some of the stuff that's discussed in that movie was common stuff, high school of my era. For me, The Breakfast Club was a good high school movie, but overall, that vibe of movie was not really something I gelled with that much. Even though it was also filmed in California, I identified more with a movie like Better Off Dead than I did Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I really identified, believe it or not, with Revenge of the Nerds. Because I was considered, even though I'm, Tennessee hillbilly, I was considered the nerd of the family because I knew how to program a VCR. I knew how to work a computer. I was into video games. So I was considered the nerdiest person in the family. Even though I didn't hang out in the whole nerd circle in high school or anything, but I was considered the nerdy one in my family because I knew I was good with electronics and I made good grades. Sue me. So, I identified with Revenge of the Nerds. That and, Revenge of the Nerds has a lot more TNA in it than Fast Times at Ridgemont High does. Let's see here. Yeah, so anyway, I own Revenge of the Nerds on Blu-ray. I do not own Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Another one from that area that's very California high school is that one with Nicolas Cage. What was it? Valley Girl. Very, very California high school. How close are the characters of King of the Hill to real people in Texas? Oh, yeah. I've only lived in Texas 9 years. And, God, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. It does not seem like it's been that long at all. But it's been 9 years. My first Retropalooza was Retropalooza Houston in 2017. So, 9 years. Anyway, everyone that lives in Texas knows someone who's just like Hank, knows someone who's just like Boomhauer. Those types are all over the state. Toss a nickel in the air, it's going to land on a Hank Hill. That's how common they are. And, I don't know any in my neighborhood, but then again, I'm not a bad neighbor, but I'm kind of a quiet neighbor. I kind of keep to myself, and if someone wants to come over and talk to me, then sure, come on in. Look at all my nerd shit. But otherwise, I don't go out of my way. So there's like several people, I've been here almost 2 years. There's several people on my street that I've never seen face-to-face or spoken to. My neighbor on this side, I've spoken with her and her husband. And the lady across the street, who I gave, this house came with a portable basketball goal, and I gave it to her for her kid. When I moved in, I talked to her, and then next door to her is a cool Hispanic guy, but I can't remember his name because I've only talked to him once. I just don't get out and socialize with the neighborhood all that much. But I'm also someone that, they never have to worry about being too loud or not throwing a bunch of trash over the neighborhood or, not keeping his yard clean. I take care of all that stuff. But I'm just, if they want to come over and borrow a cup of sugar, sure, why not? But I don't go out of my way to be like, getting involved in neighborhood activities and things like that. The only exception is Halloween. I go all out for Halloween within my budget. I'm not like Boogie where I fill my entire front yard with a bunch of crap. But, I have kids, instead of having to come ring the doorbell, they come to meet me in my garage, my wide open garage at the bar. And I've got everything lit up with blacklight posters and a fog machine. And I've got a stereo blaring, Halloween themed music and whatnot. And instead of just them coming up saying trick or treat and I just drop, whatever I've purchased into their bag, I have a buffet of candy in multiple cauldrons across the bar. So I just let them walk up, look at what I have, and take a handful of whatever it is they like. Or they can take one of each. And because of that, I've become one of the most popular houses in the neighborhood on Halloween. But that's the one exception. I don't dress the house up for Christmas or nothing. As far as Christmas goes, which you'll notice, still a lazy fat effer. The tree is still up. In the first weekend of March, tree is still up. But I don't do anything decorating wise for Christmas. I basically just turn the tree on and then open the curtain so people can see the tree from the bay window, and that's it. That's all I do. And so I always get compliments from the neighbors, "Oh, you have a beautiful tree," but that's it. I certainly don't do the Clark W. Griswold. I don't do that. I have thought about paying a company to come install those permanent lights where you can light them up for Halloween or you can light them up for Christmas. But it's over $1,000 to do that. It's not that big a deal. Did you play Bulletstorm when it was new? Did you ever watch an American? Well, of course I have. I just don't own it right now. But hi, Ben. How's it going? Imagine living next to Boogie with him screaming at Keem and breaking. I know. Look how often the cops get called to his house. All for him to be making whatever it is that Keem is paying him. I can't imagine that Keem's paying him six figures yet. When he first hired him, he was paying him $50,000. I couldn't even tell you the last time I was only making $50,000. I hope he's making more than that now. I assume he's getting like merchandise and stuff like that too. He better be for the amount of time he spends humiliating himself. Because y'all know that all of that is fake, right? It's all scripted. So, they're not making him do any of that. He's agreeing to do that because it's part of the script. So, him going out on the street corner and letting people throw water balloons at him and stuff. Yeah, it's not real torture. That's stuff that they've all agreed to. It's fake show. It's WWE, man. It's WWE. It's the kernel of what we used to do in the Trey Brotherhood, but cranked up to 50. No, I never watched The West Wing. No interest in The West Wing. No, thank you. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. I don't know why. I've never really been that big of a fan of fiction about the presidency. I like the movie about Abraham Lincoln, all right. But like The West Wing, that movie Dave, where they hire him to impersonate the president that's actually on life support underneath the White House or some, because he had a stroke or some crap. There was another one that was about the presidency that I can't remember now. There was one where Michael Douglas was the president. Yeah, they don't do anything for me. They really don't. The only one I can think of that I was like, yeah, that's a movie about the president that I had fun with was Air Force One. Who doesn't love Air Force One? The only thing that sucks about Air Force One was that crappy CGI of the plane crashing. That's the only bad thing about Air Force One. I love Air Force One. Get off my plane. Did you have a favorite cop show? Cops! Obviously. Obviously. Who was your favorite president of your lifetime? Ooh, I'm going to get in trouble with this one. Ronald Reagan. I know people love to laugh at Trump, but I'm telling you, Ronald Reagan was the funniest president that's ever been. He was hilarious. You know, did he make some pretty big F-ups? Yes. Was he a member of the Bohemian Grove? Yes. But he wasn't one of the ones that was there for, you know, all the twinks and the hookers. He was there to hobnob and get people to sign off on his policies. He was there to network. But overall, he was my favorite president. I mean, my formative years, he was the president. He was president until 88, right? He was the president until 1988, the year before my freshman year of high school. And so I grew up with him as president. I can remember when Jimmy Carter was president. I hated Jimmy Carter. There was just something a little bit too Southern Georgia with him. But Reagan, yes, Reagan was an actor. He was a very good actor. He just wasn't like, big Hollywood superstar actor. He never quite reached that level of success in his acting career. But, man, Reagan could give a speech better than just about anybody I've ever heard in my lifetime. He was tremendous orator. And there was just a certain level of class to him that I don't think any president that's come after him has achieved. Not even Obama. Obama, he was just kind of there to give the U.S. positive press, really. Because what did he really accomplish? Nothing. He was there 8 years. What did he do? Obamacare? Obamacare is a joke. If I was to lose my job, I wouldn't be able to afford Obamacare. If I ended up having to work as a contractor with no medical coverage, I wouldn't be able to afford Obamacare. It's a joke. And I love the people that point out free health care in Canada. Whoa, in Canada we have free health. I have friends that live in Canada. They would rather have what I have than what they have. They've told me this. Sure, it's free, but it's not like you can just waltz right into the doctor's office and be seen. It's not like that, according to them anyway. And I've heard it from multiple people. For Christmas, I got my mom a DVD of Reagan comedy called Stand Up Reagan. I found it at Salvation Army. Went all out for old mom, did you? There was one president movie made directly called G20. It had Viola Davis as the first black woman president. Awkward timing since Kamala Harris had just lost the election before it came out. I haven't seen that. Thoughts on J.D. Vance? I don't really think about him, to be honest. I don't really think about him. He reminds me of someone that I grew up around. Not going to say who. Do you remember the Reagan joke in Back to the Future? Ronald Reagan, the actor? Yes, I remember. Tell me, future boy, who's the president in 1985? Great Scott. I need to rewatch those. I need to pick those up in 4K because currently I still have the Blu-ray box set. I need to upgrade. I am Canadian. I can confirm what your friends say is true. Thank you, Chris. Because I've heard horror stories of, like, for example, a friend of mine catching the flu and being told that his doctor's office that he's been assigned can't see him for 6 months, so he has to go and sit in an ER instead. Almost every time that I hear from him that he's going to the doctor, he's going to the ER. He's not going to see, his actual general practitioner who he's been assigned. Under the plan that I have on my employer, it's not as affordable as it was when I had an HMO. I'm on a PPO now, but back in the day when companies still offered HMO, that was a lot cheaper. I'll give you that. But under PPO, I go to whatever doctor I want, so long as they're on the network plan. And I can call my doctor. Yeah, I've got spilkus in my connectica joint. When can you see me? We've got an appointment this Friday. Okay, so I go see him. I pay $25 up front. My insurance covers, or supposed to cover, the rest of it. Sometimes the insurance company will try to screw you on that. But it was what I've been told by my friends is that you don't pick your doctor, you're assigned one. You don't pay anything for it, but if you have something going on, the only way you're going to be seen by anyone quickly is by going straight to the ER. That if you try to call and book an appointment, it can be weeks and weeks away. That's what I've been told. And plus, Canada is like getting all behind the whole assisted suicide thing too, which I also don't agree with. A few other films with Michael J. Fox and my dad like were Teen Wolf, Casualties of War, and Secret of My Success. I love Secret of My Success. I'm okay with Teen Wolf. I've only seen Casualties of War once. I would also throw Doc Hollywood in there. Doc Hollywood is good. The Frighteners is good. I really like The Frighteners. Boy, Michael J. Fox didn't really make that many movies, did he? When you get right down to it. But definitely one of my all-time favorites is The Secret of My Success. I don't think that movie gets enough love. That movie is fantastic. I love that movie. I'd love to have it on 4K. I mean, no one really talks about Doc Hollywood anymore, aside from the fact that, the original Pixar's Car movie ripped off its plot. Oh, my neck. Oh, God. Good gravy. A lot of pain. Oh my. So what kind of camera do you think, guys? I know someone said get a DLSR. I bought one of those once already, about 8 or 9 years ago. And it didn't work that well because its autofocus was BS, and it was very easy for that, because it had that telescopic lens on it. It was very easy for that thing to get out of focus, because I could just barely move a hand, and the autofocus would go nuts. And if you turned the autofocus off, then you had to sit absolutely still where you were, because if you leaned forward, you were suddenly out of focus. So, I haven't had very much luck with DLSR. And plus, those things are like $2,000 a piece? When I'm making, $7.77 a night on the 7thCast, it'll take me 30 years. I got to find something cheaper. I mean, what about that little one that everyone's been carrying around lately that has a little screen on it that can turn vertically or horizontally? I can't remember the name of it. Couldn't I get one of those and just mount it on the back? And those are what, like $500-600? I mean, that'd be a little bit better. I had a bad knee one time, was told by a doctor I don't have time to fix this now. Yeah, my friends have told me some of the same things. A few other films with Michael J. Fox. I already said. Favorite Bond movie. Ooh. Favorite Bond movie. I don't have one favorite Bond movie. I have favorite Bond movies from each. No, not a GoPro. It's kind of a vertical looking thing. You see a lot of the vloggers carrying them around nowadays. And it's like this, and it's got a little screen that you can turn horizontal or backwards. I can't remember the name of it, but they go for about $500 or $600. You can stick it in your pocket, and the little camera sticks out over the top of your pocket. But I have a favorite Bond movie from each generation, like each star. You know, like with Sean Connery, my favorite is You Only Live Twice. With Roger Moore, it's a tie between The Spy Who Loved Me and View to a Kill. With Pierce Brosnan, it's Goldeneye, and the rest of them were just too stupid. And with with Daniel Craig, it would be either it would be Spectre. Spectre would be my favorite one out of his. Which is the best Mother game? I don't know. I've only ever played the one. Earthbound. That's the only one I've ever played. Did you play Control? Yes. Any good? It was okay. Not my favorite game. Didn't hate it. Didn't plat it, though. I beat it, but I didn't plat it. There was just way too much side content. You know, I wanted to go see that Elvis documentary, Epic, but Eighth wanted to see it too. But what we kept being told was that if you can't see it in IMAX, don't bother going. And the closest IMAX theater to us is like all the way down in Pflugerville, which is like over an hour away. And so we weren't going to make that kind of drive just to watch a documentary about Elvis. I mean, I've seen a bazillion documentaries on Elvis at this point in my life. I mean, Elvis was ours. I grew up in Tennessee. You know, he was considered ours like Davy Crockett is ours, even though Davy Crockett died in Texas. And so, you know, I grew up around Elvis. Elvis was in everything around me. My grandmother had all of his albums. And she had one of those great big giant furniture-style record players that had the great big speaker in the front, and you opened it up on the top, and one side of the cabinet is where you stored your records, and the other side is where the turntable was, and you could set 3 or 4 records on this spindle, and it would drop them one at a time and play the first side of each of those, and then when you got to then, you flipped them all over and started over again to play the other side. And so, you know, there were days where I'd throw a blanket down and I would just sit in front of the stereo and listen to Elvis records. And I would lay out, I didn't have a drum set, even though my dad was a drummer. And so I'd lay out a bunch of my mom's pots and pans, and I'd get a pair of my dad's drumsticks, and I would play drums to Elvis on those pots and pans. And my mom would tell me, what was amazing is here you were like 3 or 4 years old, and you were keeping perfect timing with the music. You were just doing it on pots and pans. She was like, both hands. You'd be doing, you know, a ride cymbal here, and you'd be hitting a snare over here, and then you would do a roll. Do, 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 do. And you were in perfect time. I should have been a drummer. My dad just didn't want to invest that kind of money in buying me a drum set. So he got me into guitar instead. Did you like Baz Luhrmann's Elvis? I liked everything except for Tom Hanks's accent, because the Colonel did not sound like that. The Colonel had this fake new kind of Midwest meets New Jersey accent. He didn't have a Dutch accent like what Tom Hanks used in the movie. I don't know why he did that. I mean, there's tons of footage of Tom Parker out there that you can watch. He didn't sound like that at all. So it mystifies me why they let Tom Hanks use that stupid accent. But otherwise, I loved it. Thoughts on Gene Hackman as an actor? He was a tremendous actor. Tremendous actor. Fantastic. One of the movies that I love him in that you don't hear about that much was Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead. I loved him in The Quick and the Dead. He was great in that. I mean, you always hear about Superman and Unforgiven and The French Connection. You hardly ever hear anyone talk about his performance in The Quick and the Dead. I love that movie. Jonathan Majors is working with Ben Shapiro in a new movie. Got any thoughts? Don't really care. Don't really care. He wasn't impressive to me as an actor before he, beat the crap out of his woman. I certainly don't. It's not impressed by him after the fact. One of my favorite Elvis songs is Trying to Get to You. My favorite Elvis song is Let Me Be There. You can hear it on his Moody Blue album. By the way, one hour remaining. We're not really keeping track, but there's been one donation of $7.77 from Dark Star, which I figured that's how things were going to go when I stopped doing the whole extension thing, but it is what it is. I understand. But yeah, my favorite song by Elvis is Let Me Be There. If you've never heard it, give it a try. I like that one, and there's another song on the Moody Blue album that's called Down or Way On Down. If you heard the bass line, you'd be hooked on it. Jonathan Majors was falsely accused of hitting her. He was on video running away the whole time she chased after him. Whatever. Either way, he's a shitty actor, so I mean, at least he was shitty as Kang the Conqueror. He might be great in other things. I don't know. Was not a fan of old Kang the Conqueror there. Just not a fan there. Not a fan. Wow, we must have had a lot of Jonathan Major fans in the audience. I just lost like 9 viewers. 9 viewers in 45 seconds after I said I don't like Jonathan Majors. What's up with that? What's up with that? That's just wrong. Y'all racist. Remember that game A Way Out a few years back? Was that co-op game to get out of prison or whatever? I never played it. Never played it. I'm not much of a co-op guy. I play mostly solo. And when I do play co-op, it's usually either with 8th or with Stranded J. Yeah, he sucked his Kang. He got beat by Ant-Man and Loki. Jerry Lee Lewis once crashed a Cadillac through the entrance gates of the front lawn where he brandished a pistol and threatened to kill Elvis. Yeah, well, the thing of it is, at that point, Elvis and him were friends. And the truth of it is that Elvis had told him to come over sometime because he had something he wanted to talk to Jerry about. And Jerry tried to call him that day and tell him, hey, I'm coming over, and couldn't get him on the phone. And, of course, Jerry being Jerry, he got progressively drunker and drunker and drunker. And I'll show that redneck son of a bitch. And he drove his car into the gates. He never would have actually shot Elvis. And, the whole rivalry thing was pretty much dead by that point. But I think at that point, Elvis kind of pitied him as a drunk and didn't want to get dragged into all that controversy, but still wanted to see him, but see him under his own terms kind of thing. There's more to that story than him just getting drunk and driving up to the gates and crashing them. There's more to it. What gets me about now I've never been there, but I've had family that have gone there and filmed it, and I've been able to see the home movies of it. What's really amazing about Graceland is how actually small it is. You think, oh, Elvis's mansion, right? It's not that big. I've been in the houses of friends of mine that were bigger than Graceland. You have the living room and the dining room in the front, and then you have 2 side bedrooms down the hall. Through the back there is the kitchen and the den, which is like the jungle room, blah, blah, blah. It's got a basement, and then upstairs it's got 2 bedrooms. I mean, that's it. It's a 4-bedroom house. Unless they had it might have been 5-bedroom, like 2 bedrooms on the ground floor and 3 on the top floor. But yeah, it's not that big compared to some kids that I grew up with that, their parents worked as executives at DuPont, and they lived in like this great big thing, and it was way bigger than Graceland was. Way bigger. You know, there are Hollywood stars out there there's YouTubers out there that have bigger houses than Graceland. It's not as big a thing as they make it out to be. It's just that when you walk around in it, you're walking through a moment frozen in time of Elvis's life. The only thing they don't let you do is you can't go upstairs to his bedroom to see his office or see where he died. Which, of course, you know, he died trying to push out a shit in the bathroom. He fell over off the toilet and they found him there with his pants around his ankles dead. That's what happened. And he had a severe constipation problem, and so he had like pounds of impacted crap in his colon. You know, like crap that had been in there so long that the color had been sucked out of it, and it was gray crap. It was like clay. It was like modeling clay. And he was trying to push that out, and he caused an infarction and his heart stopped. That's what killed Elvis. If the man had just gone and had an enema, you know, he would have lived a lot longer. But no, he's sitting there reading one of his, you know, religion books, trying to force out a big wad of clay, and he pushed so hard that it caused his heart to stop. Will you be playing Mouse P.I.? I don't know. We'll see. Thoughts on... I can't afford to buy everything, AKL Max. Thoughts on Final Fantasy 16? That was Final Fantasy in name only. It was good, but it was not a good Final Fantasy game. Elvis had more swagger, I'll give you that, but I always preferred Lewis's music. Lewis, well, that's the thing. Lewis, you know, he wrote a lot of his own stuff. Elvis didn't write any of his own music. He played other people's songs. In fact, at one point, he was going to cover Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, and Dolly Parton had a huge crush on Elvis. And she was in love with the idea of Elvis covering any of her songs, much less what was considered one of her best songs of all time. And who ruined the whole deal? Tom Parker. Why? Because he told her that for Elvis to record one of her songs, Elvis would get 50% of the publishing rights. And it broke her heart. It broke her heart, but she had to say no. She wasn't giving up her publishing rights to the song. So that's just another thing that we never got because the Colonel ruined it for him. But yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis was a tremendous piano player. Elvis was a little more rounded. He could play piano, but he could also play guitar, and he even knew his way around a drum set to some extent. But, you know, for whatever reason, he never wrote his own songs. He just covered other people's stuff. I don't know if that was a Colonel thing. I really don't know. My favorite Hulk Hogan tall tale was that Elvis watched Hulk Hogan wrestle, even though Elvis died before Hulk Hogan debuted. Yeah, Hogan tells a lot of stuff. Do you like the movie Almost Famous? Yeah, actually, I do. Thoughts on Moonstruck? Never was a big fan of Moonstruck as far as the movie's concerned. Elvis used so much amphetamines, that's what caused the severe constipation. Oh, I don't doubt it. You know, he took stuff to put him to sleep, and he took stuff to wake him up, just like Michael Jackson. Only Jackson used shots. Elvis used pills, which he thought was perfectly fine because a doctor was giving them to him. Elvis should have been... The people around him should have known something was wrong and got him into a program, a rehab or something. The fact that all of his closest friends around him were afraid to tell him no because they knew that then that would be the end of their meal ticket. It bothers me. It bothers me. You had all those guys in the Memphis Mafia that were around him 24/7. They knew he was taking those pills. He had been taking them around them for years. They could see him going downhill day by day by day. And no one had the balls to say, I don't care if it costs me my job. I want to save my friend's life. That irritates me. What's your hierarchy of video game genres? Pretty much just RPGs and Metroidvanias. I like platformers, but, every now and again I enjoy a first-person shooter, but, primarily it's RPGs and Metroidvanias are my two big genres. Back and neck, folks. Back and neck. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. You want to have something that will really crack you up? Go on YouTube and look up Elvis outtakes. Because when he'd screw up recording a song, he'd curse like a sailor. And there's one video I saw the other night where he's clowning around with his guys after a concert. And at one point he walks out of the room and he's taken his glasses and put them on upside down. And he was like, did you see that girl I was with the other night? And one of them says, what, you mean that dog? And he was like, that dog gave me the best head of my life. And I'd never seen that footage before. So, hearing Elvis talking about getting a blowjob, it cracked me up. It cracked me up. But there's like reams and reams of footage of him clowning around, joking around, cracking jokes, redoing the words of his songs to make them dirty and stuff like that. Wasn't there a character in Clay Fighter that looked like Elvis? I want to say so. Yeah, he was like a snowman in an Elvis jumpsuit or something. Now, the whole impetus, have you seen? Yes, I've seen Bubba Hotep. It's a fun movie. I don't own it, though. The whole impetus of the jumpsuits that he wore, and even the hairstyle he used, was because of his favorite comic book character. And his favorite comic book character was Captain Marvel Jr. And Captain Marvel Jr. was like, the sidekick of Shazam, the original Captain Marvel. And he looked like Captain Marvel, only he was smaller, and he had the little curly Q in his hair, kind of as Kal-El style. And instead of a red costume like Shazam, he had a blue costume. You see him in the live action Shazam movies. He's the one in the blue suit. And so that's where his hairstyle came from, with the little curl in the front and all that. Dyed black because Elvis's natural hair color was not black. And that's where the jumpsuit came from, with the little half cape in the back. They're fashioned after Captain Marvel Jr. So, those jumpsuits were his superhero costumes. That was his persona on stage, was the singing, dancing superhero who also knew karate. Have you ever tried the Elvis PB&J banana sandwich with bacon? No, I have not. I have not. I am ashamed to say this, but I am a Tennessean who grew up around Elvis everywhere, all around me. At one point, I even had a little Elvis toy drum set when I was maybe 3 or 4. I had Elvis collectible bubblegum cards. I had all sorts of Elvis stuff when I was a kid. I've never been to Memphis. Never been. Because that was one of the first things I was going to do when I got my driver's license. Was I was going to get in my car and I was going to drive from Chattanooga to Memphis to see Graceland. And my dad said, "Don't bother." And I said, "Why?" And he was like, "Memphis is a crime-ridden shithole. Don't go anywhere near it. Stay out of Memphis." And so I never went. I figured if my dad, the police officer who had been to Memphis, was telling me to stay out of Memphis, it was probably in my best interest to stay out of Memphis. So I didn't go. I don't currently own any Elvis memorabilia, no. I used to have a whole stack of 70s era Elvis bubblegum cards, and I sold them years and years ago to a collector. That was the last piece of Elvis memorabilia I had. I don't know what happened to my grandmother's records. I've been slowly rebuying them for 8th's album collection. He has Moody Blue, and I think he has the Sun Sessions. He has a couple of Elvis albums, but he has my favorite one, Moody Blue. But that's it. That's all the Elvis memorabilia we have at this point. I don't even have an Elvis poster. I don't even have an Elvis action figure. I don't know. You'd think by now I would have had like an Elvis statuette or Elvis action figure hung up on them. I don't have any of that. Nothing. How do you think The Rock became a big fan of Elvis? Well, I know didn't The Rock live? For one thing, The Rock, Elvis is a big social phenomenon to this day in Hawaii. You know, he spent a lot of time in Hawaii. He filmed one or two movies in Hawaii. And at one point, I think he had a home in Hawaii too. And so that's one of the reasons why Elvis is like this big deal in Lilo and Stitch, is because there's a big fandom for Elvis in Hawaii. They kind of adopted him as part of the culture. And so it's possible that Elvis picked it up from there, or The Rock picked it up from there. But I want to say that at one point, his father, Rocky Johnson, had them living in Memphis because he was working that Memphis territory. So he may have picked it up then. But it is obvious that, you know, there was definitely a strong Elvis influence on his character. Once he got out of that whole, Rocky Maivia thing that they first had him doing. But yeah, that's why when you watch Lilo and Stitch, that so much of it has to do with Elvis, is because Elvis is a big thing in Hawaii. Has been for, half a century. They just kind of adopted him, But it could be that, or it could be from when his dad was working in the Memphis territory. I don't know. But I would say that it's one of the two. Possibly both. Now, my dad met Elvis a couple of times. My dad, at one point, enlisted in the military, and he was going through boot camp. And during boot camp, they had him at one point out in the middle of the New Mexico desert or something out there. And this was during the period that Elvis was enlisted, and he showed up. He met him briefly there, and then he was doing a concert. I want to say he said it was he was playing drums in a concert at the Hollywood Bowl, I think, and that Elvis was there then too. But I don't remember when that was or what the circumstances of it was. My dad had all of this stuff. He had like recordings and photos and all this other stuff in the trunk of his car because, he was on the road a lot when he was playing. So damn near everything he owned was in the trunk of his car. And at one point, somebody stole his car and then burned it. They took it for a joyride, not to even try to sell it off. And they set it on fire and burned it, and they burned up 90% of the stuff he had. He had a few photographs from that era, but no, he didn't have any of the photographs that were left of him, like standing with Elvis or what have you. But I know the stories were true because I spoke to other musicians that worked with my dad, and he confirmed the stuff. They confirmed that these things actually happened, and it was all because my dad was a sessions drummer for the Nashville Musicians Union, and so he would get hired to play with all sorts of people. He played with Charlie McCoy from Hee Haw. He played with Carl Perkins, the guy that actually wrote Blue Suede Shoes. Yeah, he played on. He played uncredited on one of Roy Orbison's tracks. I don't remember which one. And of course, he got his start with a little rock band in his hometown that were called the Vivatones. There's actually, you can go on YouTube and see and listen to one or two songs by the Vivatones, but it's not Dad playing on there, because by the time they actually laid those tracks down, he had quit the band and had moved to Nashville and was like touring with Jerry Lee Lewis. So, but you can, the guy that did play on those tracks played in the exact same style that my dad played those tracks. So if you want to hear what my dad sounded like as a drummer, just go on YouTube and look up a song called Vivatones Are Rockin'. And you'll even hear him say, the Vivatones are rocking in Chattanooga tonight, Yeah. It was a band that they formed when my dad was like still in high school, if I remember right. Would you say that Elvis was a bigger legend than Babe Ruth? Oh, of course. Of course. Because Babe Ruth was a fan to sports fans. Elvis was his fans were the people. Black, white, Asian, didn't matter. Everybody loved Elvis. He was... people think they know what that is because they've seen, Michael Jackson and Beyonce in it. You don't know. The only thing holding back Elvis from being the biggest thing music-wise that's ever walked the face of the earth was the fact that Tom Parker would not allow him to tour in Europe or Asia. The farthest he could tour was Canada. And even then, Parker didn't care for it because he didn't want to go out of the country because he was an illegal. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to get back in. But he wasn't going to just let Elvis go off on his own, because then that would be giving up control of the man. But even so, he was known the world over, even though he didn't tour over there. And there's just the closest thing that's ever been to Elvis Presley was Michael Jackson. But even Michael Jackson didn't break all of Elvis's records. Elvis is still considered the top-selling solo artist with, I think it was 18 number one singles over the course of his career. Michael certainly made more money than Elvis ever did, but that was mainly because of the Colonel. But think about it. How many movies did Michael Jackson make? He made Thriller, which isn't full length. He made Moonwalker, which isn't full length. He made he was in The Wiz, and he made that ghost one, that haunted house one that was about 35 minutes long, and he made Captain EO, which was about 20 minutes long. Elvis made 30 movies. 30 movies. Michael Jackson never made 30 movies, but he did make more money because he had better people managing his career once he got out from under his father. But Jackson is the closest thing to Elvis that we've had since Elvis died. No one else has come even close. Not Justin Timberlake, nobody. Nobody has come even close to the level of influence that Elvis had. There's been nothing else like him. And with the state of music these days, I seriously doubt there ever will be. What's your favorite toilet bowl cleaner? I just like the little blue things that you stick in the tank. The extended version of Bad could be considered a mini movie. Well, yeah, that's all he made was long music videos. You know, the Wizard is the Wiz is the only thing I can think of that he was in that was full length. I saw the planetary alignment yesterday, and they were just the equivalent of stars in the sky, so I didn't know what I was going to expect. Well, yeah, because we're too far away from the planets for them to actually look like planets. You would have had a really powerful telescope to see that kind of thing. No, not Taylor Swift. Did Elvis ever play the halftime show at the Super Bowl? No. Why? Because they couldn't afford him. They would have loved to have him, I'm sure, but they wouldn't have been able to afford him. God knows how much they paid Jackson to do this halftime show, but back when Elvis was around, they wouldn't have been able to afford him. Tom Parker would have made sure of that. Tom Parker would not have let Elvis involve himself in anything where they couldn't have 100% control of the merchandising rights and 50% of the publishing rights. Wasn't going to happen. You know, there was no just paying Elvis to perform. Were the Beatles as big as Elvis and MJ? The Beatles were big. They caused a revolution in music, but their overall influence was not as great as Elvis's, strictly because of the fact that they did not last near as long as Elvis did. Their career was much shorter. And they didn't cross over into as many genres as Elvis did. Elvis was loved by rock and rollers. Elvis was loved by country music, gospel, rhythm and blues, rockabilly. And believe it or not, there were elements of the punk rock community that loved Elvis Presley because of his anti-authority attitude. Even though, you know, he did everything that the colonel told him to, he still had this kind of anti-authority element to him that attracted punk rockers to him. John Lennon said the Beatles wouldn't exist without Elvis. And of course they got to meet Elvis that one time. Although they said that it felt kind of awkward meeting him because, you know, even compared to the Beatles, Elvis behind closed doors could be a little bit eccentric. I feel like Jerry Lee's influence on music helped the punk genre. I'm sure it did. So long as the punks actually knew who Jerry Lee was. You got to remember that after he married his cousin and he killed his rock career, he ended up transitioning to country music. Elvis never transferred from one genre to the other. He just played everything that he liked. Jerry Lee Lewis actually transitioned into another genre to try to revitalize his career. John Lennon could have come close to Elvis if he didn't become controversial towards the end of his career. I still think a lot of that was Yoko's influence. I don't care what they say. Speaking of Jerry Lee, I can remember going to the theater with my dad to see Great Balls of Fire. And like I said, my dad toured with Jerry for like 6 or 9 months. This was after he had divorced his first wife, and his career was kind of in the toilet. So he was, playing clubs and stuff. He wasn't playing big concert halls anymore. And my dad laughed through that whole movie and kept going, yep, he did it. He did that, yep. Laughed through the whole thing. But then again, my dad would tell stories about stuff that he saw Jerry Lee do that were not in the movie. Like how they all got arrested one night because they were on a tour bus and Jerry Lee got super drunk and the bus driver wouldn't pull over the bus and he had to piss. So he just walked to the front of the bus, opened up the bus door while it's still rolling down the highway, whips his junk out, starts pissing out the door, and they just happened to go driving by a parked squad car with a cop that had his window rolled down smoking a cigarette. And here comes that bus, and Jerry Lee just smacks him right in the face with piss and puts his cigarette out. So they get pulled over, and they all get arrested. So, yeah. That's just one of the stories that Dad told me about him over the years. Elvis was to music as Bruce Lee was to action films. In a lot of ways, yeah. Johnny Cash was great. And Johnny Cash was friends with Elvis, but they grew apart once Elvis started to explode. And, they still talked on occasion, but when they were both at Sun Records, they were a lot closer. What is your ritual when beating a game? Do you delete the game off your system and put it on the shelf, then go to the next one, or you take a break to recollect yourself? Usually when I beat a game, I take a couple of days of not gaming. I will delete the game that night and then put it on the shelf, but then I'll just watch movies or something for a few days before I pick another game up. Were there any Elvis video games? Not that I know of. It's possible there might have been like an Elvis track pack for like, Guitar Hero or Rock Band or something. I don't know. I don't really have Elvis's singing style, so I wouldn't have purchased those if they had. My favorite Elvis memory doesn't really have anything to do with Elvis. And that was one of my dad's favorite party gags that he would do at the police department's Christmas party. And his thing was that he would perform Elvis's song Blue Christmas in the voice of Porky Pig. And he never failed to crack those cops up because, here's a cop impersonating Bacon on stage at the policeman's Christmas party, The irony speaks for itself. But yeah, here's my dad, looking like in his later years Sheriff Buford T. Justice from Smokey and the Bandit, and he's going, I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I laugh thinking about it. And if you knew my dad, and you knew what kind of man my dad was, and what my dad sounded like, because he had a much deeper baritone voice than I do. He had the same accent as me, but his voice was like an octave lower than mine. And to hear him standing there in his policeman's uniform, I'll have a blue. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I can't do it as well as he did either. I can't do it as well as him. He sounded just like him. Anyway, we got about 25 minutes to go, give or take. 25 minutes. Oh. I hope I have kept y'all entertained this evening. Y'all have suddenly stopped asking questions. Y'all want me to just go ahead and end it now? I'm going to end it all, baby. I'm going to end it all. I'm having some back problems. I need a backiotomy. Doctor says I need a backiotomy. Lord, if you're listening, help! Oh my God. Oh no. Yeah, nothing important. Nothing important. Nothing important. Why y'all stopped asking questions? Where'd y'all go? Has my little ticker stopped working or something? What's going on with y'all? Where'd you go? I'm seeing that there's still 25 of y'all in here. Where you at? Come on, Cletus. Come on. What's up with y'all? I think 8th fell asleep. I can hear him snoring upstairs from here. Elvis notoriously liked Crystal hamburgers. How do you feel about... Oh, I love Crystal hamburgers. Love them. Unfortunately, there's currently only one Crystal hamburgers place in Texas, and it's like 3 hours from here in a little... I think it's a town called Kyle, Texas. It's either Kyle or Tyler, Texas. One of the two. It's like 3 hours east of here. So I'm not about to go driving 3 hours just to get me some gut bombs. Which is what my dad called crystals. He called them gut bombs. I'm not driving 3 hours just for a bag of gut bombs. I'm not. I would love to have some. I haven't had a Crystal burger in 9 years. We stopped on the Louisiana state line, right where we crossed over. I think in Shreveport. That night, we spent the night outside of Shreveport, and we went and got Crystal burgers that night, and then we crossed into Texas the next day. Cause we couldn't make that drive in one go. We almost made it, but I mean, even once you got to the state line, it was still several hours before we were getting to where we were going. Crystals are the bomb the next day. Yeah. How many crystals could you down in one sitting? I could eat a sack full, which was like 12. I could eat 12 crystals, a couple of crystal chicks, and a large fry. Who sang My Way better, Elvis or Sinatra? Personally, I prefer the Sinatra version. I like Elvis's version, but I prefer the Sinatra one on that one. Regrets I've had a few. Yeah, 8th is definitely asleep. I can hear him just sawing that log. That's because he was at a friend's house till around 3 o'clock this morning, and he comes rolling in around 5 in the morning. Then he goes upstairs, goes to bed, wakes up at the crack of noon. So he slept 7 hours, got up to hang out with me a little bit, and then after going to wherever it was he went a little while ago, he goes upstairs and now he's asleep again. But, that's because 8th is go, go, go all the time. He's going to school, and then he has a work-study program that he makes money from at school. He's about to be a part of this engineering robotics club thing that he's going to have to devote time to on top of that. And then all of his friends live like, 30 minutes to an hour away. He doesn't have any local friends that live in this town, except for the ones he's met from school. So, yeah. He stays busy. So when he gets the opportunity to sleep, like on the weekends like this, he takes advantage of it. Sid Vicious's version of My Way was pretty good, too. What games is 8th getting for his Switch 2? Donkey Kong, to start with, Donkey Kong, and I think that Kirby racing game, Air Riders or whatever. He told me he doesn't actually care anything about Metroid Prime 4, that it didn't look good to him. So, do you prefer Crystal Burgers with or without mustard? Oh, with mustard. Without mustard, they don't taste like a traditional Crystal to me. And I don't put ketchup or anything on them, just the mustard they come with. Mustard and pickle with a little bit of onion, the way God intended. I think what's really funny is that you can get frozen Crystal Burgers at Walmart, and you can get frozen White Castle burgers at Walmart, and they both taste like the same damn thing. When in real life, White Castle burgers do not really taste like Crystal Burgers because they have different toppings. You know what I pre-ordered the other day? The complete box set of Hanna-Barbera's All-Star Laugh Olympics. I'm a 51-year-old man, and I pre-ordered Laugh Olympics. I'm probably going to be buying Jabberjaw on DVD, too. Yeah. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Exit stage left. To the right, even. Used to love Laugh Olympics. Loved them. With the Yogi Yahooies and the Scooby Doobies. Do you have a Facebook group page? No, I have a Facebook page, but I don't have a Facebook group page. I mean, if you want to interact with me on Facebook, the most likely place that you'll find me is in the Game Chasers and Shady J fan group. That's where I interact mostly. I wouldn't recommend Pain Olympics. I don't know what. I don't get that one. I like Laugh Olympics. Laugh Olympics. With Snidely Whiplash and what have you. Yes. Yes. Grape Ape. Of course, back in the 80s when I'd watch the USA Cartoon Express on the odd chance that I'd get to stay home from church on Sundays, I'd get to watch a lot of those old Hanna-Barbera cartoons like Inch High Private Eye and stuff from the 70s. The Freaky Phantom and all that stuff. And it's like I own most of the cartoons that I watched as a kid. Not all of them, but most. Obviously, I don't have all of the for the jukebox fund. How much money would it take to get you to wear an Elvis jumpsuit? I don't think they make one big enough for my fat ass. But thank you for the $10. I appreciate you. Here's your wrong one. Here's your dollar bill. Do you like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Thank you, Ace of Horns. I appreciate you. Yeah, I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Wish I had it in 4K. Hi, Shadow Deist. We got about 15 minutes left. I love Roger Rabbit. I saw it at the theater when it came out. I think it's one of the best things that Disney's done in the last 40 years. It's a great movie. way ahead of its time at the time. Johnny Quest is an underrated Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I would agree. Now, I prefer the original Johnny Quest. I didn't so much care for the new adventures of Johnny Quest that came out like in the 90s or whenever that was on Cartoon Network. I was not big fan of it, but I loved the original Johnny Quest. I think that's one of the reasons why I find the Venture Brothers to be so funny is because, I spent so much time watching Johnny Quest, so I kind of get it. Did you like Space Jam? No, I did not. I actually saw that at the theater because the girl I was dating at the time, I took her little brother to see it because no one in his family wanted to go see it. And I told him, well, if you'll trust me, I'll take him to go see it. I'll take him right up here to this theater up the road. And they agreed to it, and so I took him to see it, and he had a blast, and, they worked out fine. I was proud of the fact that her parents trusted me enough to take him up to see it. He had a lot of fun with it. Which I used to do that. I'd been doing that for years with my my little cousin, my direct cousin, who was the son of my mother's sister. He had 2 boys. One of them passed away a couple of years ago, but the older one is still alive. And when he was a little boy, they used to send him up from Atlanta to stay with me 1 week out of the summer every year. And, once I got to where I had my driver's license, they'd send him up, and I'd drive him all over the place. I'd take him to comic book shops and Toys R Us, all sorts of different stuff. And one of the things that I always did was I would take him to see movies, including R-rated movies that he wasn't supposed to see, but I would take him anyway. Like, for example, I took him to see Terminator 2 when it was on the theater. I also took him to see Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I took him to see that at the theater. Took him to see all sorts of movies, but that was once I had my driver's license, that was definitely something, is he'd get to see a whole bunch of movies the week that he was with me, on days I wasn't working anyway. And so I'd already had experience with taking kids that age to see movies, so it wasn't that big a deal to throw my girlfriend's brother in the car and take him on up the road to see Space Jam. But I'm not a fan of the movie. I like the sequel even less. I am surprised Hollywood never bothered making a live-action Johnny. I know, right? Are you going to watch Darth Maul Shadow Lord? I don't know. Are you still close with his cousin? I still talk to him on occasion. On occasion. He's a lot different than he was when he was a kid. But, he still reaches out and hits me up, every now and again, wanting to know what I'm up to, what I'm doing. And his dad, my direct cousin, his dad actually came to see us a few months after we moved into this house. He stayed for about a week, hung out, then drove all the way back to Atlanta. I have an interview on Thursday. Wish me luck. Good luck. Hope you get the job. That being said, we're at the 10-minute warning, folks. 10-minute warning. Wah, 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 for the jukebox fun. The jukebox, in the least, I'm not even thinking about the jukebox right now. I'm thinking about replacing this camera. Because in the least, the jukebox would cost me $800. That's the cheapest model you can get. And to get that, you'd have to get one that doesn't come with a CD player. Hi, Beef Jerkings. How's it going? Hope you've been well. 8th is always talking about how you managed to create some kind of stock market nest egg because of me, that at some point I had recommended some company as a company that'd be good to invest in, and you actually listened to me and you made like a chunk of change off of it. I don't know how true that is, but he tells me that you talk about that all the time. I think I've missed the window with Mass Effect. Well, perhaps. I tell you this much, if they bring out a new Mass Effect, it's probably not going to be on the level of the first three. Are you watching the second season of Fallout? I watched it. It was good. I had fun with it. Yes, with him. When did I ever tell you to invest in Microsoft? I don't remember that. Do you prefer 10-hour games with replay value that push the game up to 30 hours? Or do you prefer 100-hour games for your $70? Don't really care. If I get a solid 10 hours out of it, I'm willing to pay $70 for that. Like, if they put out a new Uncharted and it wasn't like a depressing piece of ass like Uncharted 4 was, and it was only 10 hours long, I'd pay $70 for it, sure. Sure, why not? Now, I wouldn't pay $70 for like a 2-hour game, not now. I mean, I would back during the 16-bit generation, but not now. Thoughts on rumors of the new Xbox? What, that it's just a PC with the Xbox logo on it? That certainly tracks. Your Xbox One sucks video I used as insight to where the industry was going, how they were buying out studios, so I bought a bunch of shares. Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. I knew I'd never told anybody you should buy Microsoft stock. I know I'd never done that. I have never delved into the stock market because, I used to work for a brokerage firm and I saw people lose their lives on that crap. So I have never bothered investing in it. Never bothered to invest in it. The closest thing I own to stock is my 401k, and that's it. I have no holdings. None. At one point, I owned some AT&T stock options, but they became worthless, and so I just, never did anything with them. And I got those as a perk of an employee perk, and I never did anything with them because they were never worth nothing. So, thoughts on the Halo TV series? It sucked. I mean, I'm Series 7 and Series 63 licensed, but I never trusted my instincts enough to be willing to invest in stock. Because if I was, who knows, I could be a millionaire by now, but I never trusted my instincts enough to do it. I prefer the sure thing. Some believe that AI characters are going to replace live actors, even though Hollywood attempted that over 25 years ago with The Spirits Within. Well, it had real voice actors, though. Your 401k has underlying assets to S&P 500 and other index. I'm aware. Speaking of which, are you a PC or a Mac user? PC. Can you recommend me a good movie that defines the 80s for you? Better Off Dead. That's 80s to me. Stocks are great as an asset to get loans. Underrated use of stock. Well, I've just always been afraid to invest in it that I'm going to end up losing my butt over it. So I don't trust my instincts enough. And on top of that, I never seem to have, if I was going to invest in anything, I'd probably invest in like an ETF where I could earn dividends. And then I would just, set it up to reinvest itself into more stocks in it. But that's something that I should have done when I was like 20, so that by now I'd be making like $5,000 and $6,000 a month off of the dividends. That's what I should have done, but I didn't because I was dumb. I've always wondered why stock trading was considered so dangerous. Aren't you just risking your initial investment? Sure. But the bigger your initial investment. Thoughts on the not getting into politics? You know that, Shadow Deist. Are you looking forward to Stranger Things season 2.5? No. The snowball effect, exactly. Here's the trick to gamble: only lose what you can afford to lose. Don't put your house up on. Well, of course. Do you think they cloned Jim Carrey, or did he just have botched surgery? I don't know. I think he probably just got like, a neck trim or something, and it's made him look funky. I don't know. But that's what I should have done. Was right around when I was 20, I should have invested in a dividend paying ETF. There's a really highly recommended one, but the name of it is escaping me right now. But that one didn't start till like 2011, so that wouldn't have been an option when I was 20. But either way, invest in an ETF that paid a dividend and then just set it to automatically reinvest itself into more shares and just let it sit until I was around this age, and then start drawing the dividend as income. And then I wouldn't even have to work right now. I'd be pulling, 6, 7, 8 grand a month, which would have been more than enough to pay my bills. 8th is still young, still a good time to start with him. He's not making enough to invest. He's just doing a work study. He's not working like a full-time job. Do you think Stranger Things went on too long? Probably. Stock market investing can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. If you treat it like gambling, you're going to get that. It's all about proper percentage. Small cap shouldn't be your majority. I wouldn't want to get rich, Boston. I would just want to be able to invest enough to where I could live off the dividend to retire early. That would have been my goal, is to get to the point where I had $7,000 to $8,000 a month in dividends. And then I could retire and I wouldn't have to work anymore because I could just live off of those dividends. That would be the goal. But I don't have enough years left in my life to where I can get an investment that high, unfortunately. All the men in my family don't even make it to 70, except for a small handful. And here I am, 51. Even if I did live to be 70, 20 years is not going to be enough with the amount of take home that I get after bills to be able to, get myself investment wise to where I'm clearing $7,000 or $8,000 a month in dividends. It just ain't going to happen. It just ain't going to happen. Not in the time that I have left. So I think I'm a lost cause. I'm most likely going to have to keep working until I die. And, I just got to convince 8th to invest to where he won't have to work as long as I'm going to have to work. It's too late for me. The only way I'd be able to do that now is if I just really lucked into something that exploded. I don't have decades, though, 56K warning. I don't have decades. Anyway, we got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Your video game collection is a pretty good asset. I know you'd never sell it. No, I never would. I mean, it's worth about $70,000, but I'd never sell it. The only way I'd sell it is if it was the only thing I had. If I didn't have a job and it was the only thing I had left that I could earn some income with, then I would sell it. I'd call up Retro Rick and say, come down here and make me an offer. And then have him cart it away. But that's only if I was out of work, I had no income coming in, my 401k was already burnt up, and that was and selling my collection was literally my last resort. It was very nice talking to you again, man. You and 8th are great people. Nothing but respect and admiration. No problem, Boston. No problem. You've got 8's social media. You can reach out to him anytime you want. You can always reach out to me on Twitter when you want. Or X. Send me a DM. No big whoop. Oh, my neck. My neck be grinding, y'all. It be grinding. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. There was no donation goal because I can't handle extensions these days. I appreciate the, we'll just say $18 in donations I got tonight. Appreciate you. Be thinking about what y'all want to talk about next week. Think of the questions you want to ask me. And I will endeavor to be there Same seventh time, same seventh.